Vampire War for the Second City is a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition actual play podcast presented by DM Fiat, with I, Dale, as storyteller. Please be advised that this podcast contains descriptions of gore, depravity, addiction, coercion, and other adult themes. This is not D&D. This is a game where we play monsters of the night who do monstrous things. They're all around you. Welcome, everyone. We're back with session number 6 of Vampire War for the Second City. This session is entitled Bloodied but Unbowed. It has been a month since our last session. It is currently late July of the year 2020. And as the sun sets over the city of Melbourne, and once again the shadows envelop the city, and the creatures of the night fill the streets, we must address what you've been doing since the last time we played. Obviously, Hope has had her own little mini session which covered some of her downtime, the most important parts of it at least, but I know Hope did other things during the month aside from just meeting up with Sage as depicted in her one-on-one session. So we'll start with Hope. Hope, what else did you accomplish during your 1 month downtime?
Well, Hope contacted her arms dealer contact and lined up some SMG magazines and bullets, and also some range time so she can practice with it. She never discarded those Second Inquisition machine guns she got her hands on.
Yeah. So I'll ask you to start, please, by rolling a dexterity firearms check for me.
Oh, this will go fine. This will totally go fine.
You can feel free to rouse the blood if you like.
You know, I think I will. This will totally be okay. And I get hungrier. But
well.
that gives me 5 dice. So, and 2 successes.
2 successes. So, you contact the weapons dealer that you know. He's an American expat. He's been in Melbourne for an even shorter time than you have, and he's mainly only here for what he terms to be vacation purposes, but he's always got a keen eye out for business, and that means that even when he's far from home, on vacation and only temporarily in the city, he still has a stash of military-grade hardware smuggled away, ready to wheel and deal with. And so he supplies you with some ammunition for the Second Inquisition submachine guns, and when you show these to him, he's immediately impressed by them. He whistles, "Ooh, man, This is some military-grade shit here. This is the kind of stuff that, back home,
Alright.
you could only find in those top-tier supermarkets. And he arranges some time with you at a local range. Ranges in Melbourne are not very common, but there's a couple, and they're mainly used for sports shooters to practice with their handguns. And so he makes sure to book time for you during the night when no one else is around, so that you won't draw attention with your submachine gun. And
I know enough gun guys to know to bring the spare so he can have some fun too.
yeah, indeed, he picks up the spare, and the two of you spend the night shooting. And although you're quite rusty at first, you seem to take to it very quickly. And as you put another bullet through the head of one of the cardboard targets, he looks at you and once again whistles out loud and says, "Oh boy, that's that American blood shining through. You got a natural talent for this." And so you may add a dot to your firearms skill.
Whoa, seriously? Alright. Works for me. Thank you kindly.
He remarks how you seem to dodge and weave between targets with almost supernatural reflex, raising the gun, cocking it and firing it in one single motion, moving almost as if a blur. He interprets this as extreme enthusiasm for gun culture, and you consider that this is probably better than him knowing your true nature.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to check if he was... Oh, well, I'm sure it's fine.
So, Hope, is there anything else you accomplished during your downtime?
Two more things. One of them's with Derek, so save that one for last.
Yep.
If that's okay.
So what's the next one?
The next one is going to go see Claire,
Yes, Claire.
the overworked social worker.
Overworked social worker, one of your touchstones. This is the first time she's appeared in any of our sessions, so please, go ahead and describe her.
Claire is a woman of African or Aboriginal descent. I'm not sure, I haven't asked. Her skin's darker than mine, that's all I know. And she works in one of Melbourne's worst slums, trying to help find jobs for people who are out of prison and help drug addicts recover and walk the straight and narrow. She is overworked, she is underpaid, and I always have to make time to see her in advance because she takes her work home.
Yep. So, you drive all the way out to Footscray, an industrial suburb out in the west of Melbourne. The urban decay has slowly over the years been covered up with a thin layer of gentrification, but at its heart this is still one of the poorest suburbs in the city. The streets are filled with people down on their luck and out of work. And so, as you expected, you push open the door and enter into Claire's office, sequestered away in one of the darker corners of the community centre in the heart of Footscray. You find her engulfed in paperwork, a pile so big that it almost completely obscures her. There is no free space left on her desk. The computer monitor takes up one half and the rest of the surface is completely dominated by folders, cardboard boxes, and piles of paperwork for the various cases she's working on. She looks up as she hears the door open. You greet her, and then you see her face poke out from behind a tower of papers. She sighs, tired, and she says, "Oh, Hope. Long time no see. What can I do for you? As you can see, I'm just overwhelmed with things to do. Even in the middle of the night, it doesn't let up."
I know. And actually, I was going to see if I could help you. You want a couple more hands signing those? I mean, I can't do the signatures, but I can fill in the basics.
"Oh, I won't complain," she says, and then she immediately divides the tower of papers in half and shoves the top half over the desk towards you.
Thanks. I just kind of look her over and, I figure she's middle-aged, but, her hair's going early gray. She's got these speckles with a chain attached.
She's either in her late 30s, early 40s, but looks about a good 10 years older than that. Edges of her hair growing grey and her dark, leathery skin wrinkled with tiredness and overwork. But there's kindness still visible in her eyes. And so you spend a couple of hours helping her get through her paperwork, and at the end of it, she lets out a huge sigh of relief as she leans back in her office chair and she looks over at you and she says, "Oh, thank you so much, darling. What would I do without you?"
Work entirely too late. Oh, wait, you do that already.
She smiles and she says, "I
Seriously,
know."
when did you last eat?
She immediately looks at you and then raises her eyebrows and says, "Oh shit! It's nearly midnight. I haven't eaten since lunch. Oh."
Come on, I grabbed some food on the way up, but I can at least treat you to, mug bars. They should be open for a while.
She pulls open a drawer, shoves the rest of the paperwork in it, and then stands up and she says, "Oh, now that I'm on my feet, yeah, I can feel it. Let's eat."
Alright.
So, as you take her out to hit up some of the late night cafes that are still open this hour, catering to hipsters and club goers, you purchase her some greasy but filling food. And as you sit there on a park bench on the edge of one of Footscray's crowded streets, eating the food, she just says, "Now, I know you do all this stuff out of the kindness of your own heart, but why have you come to visit me tonight, of all nights? Surely there's something I can do to repay all this."
Honestly, I've been under a lot of pressure. I had to make some tough choices, and without getting into details, I just kind of wanted to vent. So, I've helped with you with a few things of dubious nature, so you already know I'm in things of a dubious nature. So I figure I can talk to you without getting to specifics, and maybe it'll be okay, yeah?
She looks around, spends a few seconds contemplating the throngs of club goers, late night revelers, and bums down on their luck as they mill about the street, and she takes a bite out of the meat pie, ketchup dropping down onto her blouse, and then she leans in and listens as you go over some of the events of the past month, leaving out specifics, not revealing anything supernatural, but getting some of your worries and regrets off your chest. Just as if you were one of her clients, she listens but does not judge. She doesn't have much input, but it's nice to just have an ear to spill your problems into that doesn't judge you or tell you what you should have done. And so you may restore 1 willpower point.
Thank you.
And is there
I'll get that trash for you, I say as I take the pick-out box. And then I pause as she's walking away, and I look at the box and I look at the trash can, and for some reason I took the box away. The empty stained box.
She doesn't notice this. As her back's turned, she turns around and just sees that the box is gone, assumes you've thrown it away. She smiles, wipes her mouth with a napkin, and then she says, "Thanks for the grub, Hope, and hey, chin up there." And then she sighs, turns around, begins to make her way back up the street towards the community centre. You salute her behind her back, quietly, silently. Is there any other downtime you'd like to accomplish?
Just one.
Yep.
Paging Mr. Derek.
Yep. So Derek,
Operations ready.
Derek, at your we'll swap over to Derek now for Derek's downtime, actually. Yep. So, Derek, what have you done over the last month?
And yeah, besides going to see hope about getting surgery done, I imagine I've been spending all the time trying to decipher those notes we got. Yeah,
so first, I would like you to please make either an intelligence academics check or an intelligence occult check. And if you'd like to bring your mauler aboard, you may add those dots to the dice pool.
Okay.
If you'd like to recruit his help.
Yeah, I'll recruit him along just like the +1. Yeah, actually, thanks.
I think... See.
I'm just going to count it on my dice.
Yes. Well, a big dice pool's better than a small dice pool when it comes to stuff as important as this.
Sure. So it's 3 successes so far, but I'm going to... Missed a die.
3 successes?
Yeah. 3, one of them's a 10, but I think we need 2 to make it a crit.
Need 2 for it to count.
Yeah.
So, you spend several nights sequestered in your chamber at the very back of the... Well, it was once a convenience store, but after it shut down, you acquired it with the help of your Tremere contacts, repurposed it into what you call your compound. Several members of your herd live here with you, and you don't exactly call it a church, but it's where you spend most of your time when you're not with the coterie. And so you sequester yourself inside your haven and pore over the coded printouts that Hope provided you with. At first, they make no sense whatsoever to you, but you start to notice patterns here and there, strange repeated sequences of numbers or phrases, and you realise that there is some meaning there, and you just need that last push in order to decipher. At first, you're hesitant to bring this to the attention of the Chantry, certainly not to Professor Cypher, the Primogen, but you figure you can trust Seth. Seth, one of the junior members of the Tremere, but still higher up than you, has kindly taken you under his wing. He's showed you the ropes and helped you integrate into the Chantry, helped you learn when to pay your dues, what to offer to the Chantry, what things to say to your betters, what things not to say, how to present yourself. And so you bring him into your haven, into your inner circle, and with the promise of allowing him to feed from your herd, you ask him to help you decipher the secrets of the Second Inquisition. And after the better part of a month of the two of you pooling your collective intelligence and combining your knowledge of the occult and encryption, you managed to decipher a couple of important pieces of intel. You don't manage to decipher the full contents of the report. That will take even more time, several more months. But you scratch the surface and learn the following. The Second Inquisition has managed to purchase quite a large stake in a local pharmaceutical company based in the western suburbs that has a contract to manufacture COVID vaccines. This stake gives them control of 40% of the company, and the report alludes to the fact that Second Inquisition scientists, quotation marks around that word, will be assisting the company with the production of what is termed activated vaccines. The report states that several experiments related to this venture have produced promising results so far, and blank body test subjects have responded to the pathogen in what they term a promising way. The report also states that 3 sleeper teams, part of Task Force Harker, have been established at various strategic points within the city and have so far, at least as far as the SI know, established themselves in secret, unbeknownst to the kindred population. The report doesn't state what these teams are doing, what their purposes are, or even where they're stationed. Perhaps that's later in the report, but you do get 3 code names: Unicorn, Phoenix, and Chimera. The report states that one of the sleeper cells, Team Unicorn, is directly involved with Operation Pathogen, the code name they've given to the venture involving the production of COVID vaccines. Take a sigh of relief. A sigh of simultaneous relief that there is useful intel in here, and also a sigh of resigned foreboding, knowing that these things can only be bad. What's your reaction, Derek?
Yeah, pretty much along the lines of that. Like, okay, so there is useful information, and it's like, yeah, reading about what all that, then it's just, that's not good.
Seth also seems to read between the lines, understand the implications in this document, and his reaction is to just look at you and say, we should take this up the chain. Professor Cypher should know, at the very least, more in the Chantry. If anyone can prepare for whatever's going on here, it's the Chantry. But if you want to keep this under your hat for the time being, I'll respect your wishes. And so, Derek, will you make this intel known to the Chantry at large, or will you ask Seth to keep this under wraps for the time being?
Yeah, I think for now I'm going to ask him to keep it under wraps.
He just nods, and he says, fine, I'll keep it under wraps, but I can come and relieve myself with your vessels anytime I so please for privilege. And let's say shit starts to hit the fan, and the life of the Chantry itself is at stake. I'm going to be taking it up the chain. In an emergency, I've got to value my superiors. Our duty is to the pyramids, not to each other, young apprentice. Remember Vienna, he says. And this is a term that the Tremere use a lot, remember Vienna. You don't know a lot about it, but you understand that at one point, the elders of the Tremere clan were based in Vienna, at least until the Second Inquisition found them. Quite a long time ago now, way back in 2008, and wiped that entire Chantry from the face of the planet. And so, The Tremere take the SI seriously, and while you trust that Seth will keep your secret hidden for now, if there's ever an emergency, he will make it known to the Chantry at large. I presume you reveal the information you've gleaned to the rest of your coterie, though?
Yeah.
Sure.
Try
and then, of course... Yep.
I just do a similar thing to what I did the first time, like, make a copy and then give it to Hope so that they have it.
Yep. So you write everything down in your little spell tome, all of your compiled notes, make copies of them, and distribute these copies to Hope and also Sylvia as well, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Yep, Sylvia as well. And then, finally, the arranged date arrives. The date when Hope agreed to perform the operation of installing your bone shank. June 29th. As agreed upon, you hear the sound of the great oak doors of your haven being pushed open. The great oak doors that you've had installed, replacing what was once the entrance of the supermarket, retrofitting it to make it resemble a Gothic cathedral from the outside and the inside. You emerge from your inner sanctum and see Hope casually strolling into your compound, looking around, taking in all of the decor that you've seen fit to populate your haven with. A couple of the members of your congregation, as you lovingly refer to them, your herd, are present, and as you enter the haven, Hope, members of Derek's herd gather around you, and they're all wearing strange occult garb that almost looks like a slightly changed imitation of the standard Tremere robe, complete with the Tremere clan symbol sewed into the breast. And they gather around you, all of them bow their head, and then in unison these men and women chant, "Welcome, mistress, to the inner sanctum."
Thanks. Is this house Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw?
You hear a door open at the back of the makeshift church. You see Derek strolling out from his inner chamber. In unison, all of the members of the congregation turn to face him. One of them gestures her arm in his direction, and then they chant, "The Master who gives us gifts of blood." And then they disperse, allowing Derek to silently make his way down the row in between the pews towards you.
Dude.
Okay.
You have got to be a master at keeping a straight face. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it gets hard sometimes.
I gotcha. So you got a room we can do this in? You probably don't want this happening out in the open.
Very conscious of the eyes of the congregation watching your every move, Derek, you just nod and lead Hope into your inner sanctum.
And I'll raise my voice. I'm to receive enlightenment. Oh, this is an honor.
And then you hear all of them, as you pull the door shut behind you, doing their best imitation of the green aliens from Toy Story. Ooh. Derek leads you into his haven. And Derek, this is the first time we've seen your haven. What does it look like?
Oh god. It's... So, well, firstly, there've been no windows.
No windows at all.
Yeah.
No windows. It's fairly... It's sort of like if someone had like a nice office space, but then also converted it to somewhat also be their living space.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And I imagine
it's slightly at odds to the rest of the building.
Yeah, so everything else is done up as a Gothic cathedral, but this room is somewhat modern. There's bookshelves covering every wall, and you've pushed the bookshelves to block out the windows. There's at least 2 or 3 desks at various points in the room, each of them piled with tomes and sheets of paper and a computer. And then there's one corner of this vast office/library where you've laid out plush carpet and placed your bed, a luxurious 4-poster. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. So that chair will do. Give me a second. And I will use Sense the Beast to confirm that there are no other vampires in the room.
Yep.
That's 2 successes.
Your eyes glow red as you slowly scan the room, determining that you and Derek are the only kindred present.
Yeah. It's more of a mental, is there any anger around me? Are there any beasts? No? Okay. But glowing red eyes, I can do that too.
Yeah.
Nice touch.
And then you...
Alright. Yeah, we're alone.
You gesture to one of the wooden chairs in front of one of the desks. Derek takes his seat, and then he rolls up his sleeve, bears his arm towards you.
Reach into the messenger bag, pull out the plastic tarp, spread it out under him. Do you want to watch, or do you want the silk screen?
I think I'll take the silk screen.
I pull out a little stand, pull a hanging screen, drape it over so you can't see his arm. Up to you if you want earplugs. We've got some stuff to talk about, but it can wait till the whole coterie is together, so... I'll reach it. I'll stir the blood for flesh crafting. Get hungrier.
Get hungrier, lovely.
And pretty much good work.
Yep. So it takes several hours, and Derek, you feel like you made the right decision not watching the process, as even with earbuds in your ears, at several points you hear a sickening crack or a squelching of flesh, and there's a strange feeling running up and down your arm as it shifts and warps to Hope's touch. Were you alive, you would feel nausea. You would feel like leaning over the side of the chair and vomiting, even without watching the process. Just the feeling of it and the occasional sound is enough to disgust you. When the process is done, Hope pulls away the sheet, and Hope, describe the results, please.
Okay, I have a question. First, Derek, did you want it to pop out at the wrist, at the elbow, or did you want a Guyver-style outside blade?
No, I was sort of imagining I guess wrist is more like the Assassin's Creed style, isn't it?
Yep, totally is.
Yeah, basically, yeah, what I was imagining, sort of wrist to lower hand sort of thing.
Alright. There you go. So, there's a tiny scar on your palm. That's the only sign that there's anything off. And when you fold your fingers a certain way, a long spike of bone, kind of conical in nature, so it's wider at the base than it is at the tip, shoots out a good 6 inches.
And
when you work your fingers back, it retracts.
After it pops out for the first time, Derek, you stand up, whirl around, and pirouette towards one of the bookshelves, thrusting forwards with your hand, piercing the cover of one of the books, ripping it off the shelf and scattering its pages everywhere.
Huh.
Satisfied with your new addition, you pulse your fingers as instructed and retract the blade.
There you go. Now, if you ever need to ditch it in a hurry, you concentrate and focus on forming your hand back to the way it was, like healing. Only takes a crap ton of blood, okay? But that'll undo all the changes and eject some bone fragments from your arm.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
All right.
So,
Yeah, nothing's permanent. Also, I am hungry as sin. You mind if I share some enlightenment with that tattooed lady I saw on the way out?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Thank you.
So, Derek graciously allows you to satiate yourself on his congregation. He holds his hands aloft and he says, "Behold, another messenger!" And they gather around you in a circle, chanting, humming, "Gifts of the blood, gifts of the blood." None of them are into body mod culture. They're clean, pure acolytes. And so you may only reduce your hunger by 2 points.
Well, that's all I needed. Still, it's like chewing on styrofoam.
Yeah. Their blood is perhaps too pure, too clean for you. We move over to Sylvia. Sylvia, we handled some of your downtime off screen. I'll make the details apparent later sessions it comes up in the storyline, but there were a couple of other things that you wish to handle.
Yep, it's a lot of research mostly, so looking a bit into Father Patrick himself and the Sabbats.
Yep, so your first order of business is to investigate the past of Father Patrick. In order to do this, you must resist the blood bond.
Right, yes. What was the roll for that again?
So, the roll for that will be... sorry, let me just get my book open. I should have had it open already, but alas, I did not. So I'll just open it and get the rule for that. I believe it's intelligence and something. Cool book, and let me just go to the correct page here. States of Damnation, the Blood Bond. Okay, so your bond strength is currently at 6, as up until now, Father Patrick has been able to coerce you into receiving a dose of his blood once a month to maintain the bond. And you've now gotten to the point, and this is the thing that scares you, that you now look forward to feeding off him, and it's almost as if you succumb to the blood bond willingly. So I would like you to please go ahead and make a Resolve plus Intelligence check. And you may also add an extra die to that.
Actually, pretty decent. Still not enough, but it is 5 successes, unfortunately.
5 successes. Part of you wants so desperately to give in. Part of you is hopelessly, madlessly in love with Father Patrick and cannot face the prospect of living another waking moment without him. But the rest of you desperately wants to tear yourself away, to liberate yourself from this man's control. Eventually, you divulge your feelings to Hope, and Hope does her very best to assist you in this matter. Hope spends several nights this month asking you, or should I say, more like forcing you, out clubbing with her, just to keep some distance between you and Father Patrick. You spend several nights at a local hotspot, Club Violet, trying to lose yourself in the music, in the heat of the night. And yet thoughts of Father Patrick still linger on your mind. You appreciate what Hope is doing for you. You appreciate that Hope is trying to save you, trying to make it easier for you to tear yourself away from the blood bond. And yet, neither of these nights can you forget Father Patrick, as the mortals dance around you, as Hope cheers, pulls you onto the dance floor, and excitedly calls for you to dance with her. Your thoughts linger on Father Patrick. And so, you give in. You return to Father Patrick. You call him to your haven. He meets you in the university chapel, the place that was once his haven and now yours. You awaken one night to find him standing over you, offering his wrist, blood already dripping from a wound. And without hesitation, you sit up, grab his arm, and swallow the blood. Your desire to find out anything more about him instantly ceases for the time being. How could you ever question your benefactor, this man who has done so much for you, who has brought you into this world and guided you every step along the way? I will mention that there was one thing that both you and Hope noticed while you were out clubbing at Club Violet, and that is that there is one thing in the club that seems to be at odds with this modern establishment where all of the town's most hip young people gather. And that is, just off the dance floor at the back of the club, hanging on the wall, is an oil painting. It's complete at odds with the neo-Gothic decor and theming of the rest of the club. And it is an oil painting of the bushranger Ned Kelly and his Kelly gang standing outside of Glen Ruin pub the day of the fateful gunfight that ended their lives. A sign, perhaps, that this club has some ties to someone with a lot of nostalgia. Sylvia, you cannot glean any information about Father Patrick, but there was another thing you wished to do during downtime.
Yes, there were two actually. One of them also involves Derek. Sorry, buddy.
Yep.
But the other bit of research I wanted to get done was scouting out my old place of employment, so the hospital.
Yeah, the hospital.
And also getting in touch with contact if need be to get more information about the Second Inquisition.
The hospital where you were undergoing your internship before you died. You haven't been there since that fateful night, but you've stayed in contact with several of the staff. You were all students together, now they are doctors. Doctors who work at that hospital. And so get in touch with them, reminisce about old times, and ask them if there's anything strange going on in the hospital. I asked you to roll an intelligence and medicine check, or an intelligence investigation check. How many successes did you get on that?
I believe it was 4 successes on a critical, just a normal critical.
Indeed, it was. Are any of your touchstones people who work at this hospital?
One of them is, actually.
Yes, so please go ahead and describe them.
Right, yes. Dr. Rowan Colt, Colt spelled with an O, sorry, Derek, is a nice guy. He's pretty friendly. Used to be my mentor at my internship, but well, things went south. Fairly plain dressed, clean shaven, darker brown hair, always sleek back, nice and tidy behind. A fair complexion, spectacles because, you know, everyone's blind after reading so many textbooks. Otherwise, he is fairly efficient, is a good doctor, but is perhaps in lower standing than he was before. Sorry, I'm just remembering details of this as I go. Less respected than he was before I framed him for an accident at work.
Yeah.
But we're still maybe friends. I would probably, if I needed to get information from him, I would probably use a few proxies, not speak to him directly, definitely.
He once held a prestigious position as head of surgery at St. Vincent's Hospital. Now he works in a far lesser capacity as a practicing GP out of a health clinic attached to the same hospital. He's gone from saving people's lives to treating colds, administering flu shots, and telling hypochondriacs that nothing's wrong with them. But he's always looked out for you, and he still does. You remember he expressed disappointment at first when he heard that you had dropped out of your medical degree to work as an undertaker. He didn't feel that it was the correct use of your talents, but as he's always had a soft spot for you, he supported you and assured you that if there was anything you needed, he would always be there to provide. And so he imparts some important bits of wisdom to you as you contact him. Give him a couple of half-made-up stories about your life of late and bring the conversation around to the topic of strange happenings, whispered rumours. And he tells you that at the hospital recently, for at least the last couple of weeks, he's noticed men he describes as government types. Suited, sunglasses indoors, earpieces, clearly working for the government, for some shadowy department. He says one of them introduced themselves to him as a federal police agent, another consultant for ASIO. They've been hanging around the hospital quite a lot and seem to have taken a rather strange interest in COVID patients.
Interesting. Okay. And I would have also checked in with my actual contact, who is a police detective.
Police
so I wanted
detective.
to see if there was anything on that front that was suspicious.
So you ring up Detective Brick down at the Victoria Police Central Station in the Melbourne CBD, and he's able to tell you that of late he's also been visited by strange government types. 2 agents of the federal police, a woman with shoulder-length blonde hair and a middle-aged man with balding silver locks of hair, have apparently been investigating terrorist activities within the city, suspected insurgents, radicalisation. And they've had him look into the backgrounds of several seemingly random people in the city, members of various subcultures, members of the body mod community, members of the Melbourne art community, club goers, hipsters, religious people, and strangely a couple of homeless guys. Detective Brick thought this was weird, so he kept an eye on some of these people, and he later learned that some of them had ended up being patients at St. Vincent's Hospital. This piques your interest, and so once again you check in with Dr. Colt, and find to your horror that several of the names Detective Brick gave you match up with recent COVID patients admitted to Dr. Colt's care.
Okay, that is very helpful. All right. I will eventually pass all this onto the coterie. And I now realize that the last thing I wanted to do with Derek probably won't happen because I failed the roll to resist the blood one.
That's right. So
I am done with that.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so downtime is out of the way. We move on to this night. Late July 2020. As the sun falls behind the horizon, you slowly rouse from death-like slumber. It is a Friday night, and despite another lockdown looming, despite the stay-at-home orders issued by the Premier, Streets are still filled with mortals. You feel the beast snarl within, calling for its nightly due. Your blood rushes through your dead veins, animating you, and your eyes snap open. It is time to introduce our new player, Ash, who plays Vincent Ventru. We won't describe Vincent the Ventru yet, that will come very soon. But for now, Ash, I would like you to roll a d4 to determine your starting hunger, please.
Sure. That is 2.
2, hunger 2. And now, as you all awaken, I'd like you all to conduct a rouse check, please.
Be nice to me.
That's a failure.
Yes.
Failure.
Success.
So, Sylvia, you're up at hunger 3.
Failure. Yes. A.
Vincent, you're up at hunger 3. Hope, you're at hunger 1. And Derek, how are you?
I failed, so hunger 2.
Hunger 2. The beast growls within. It's relishing the chance to hunt that you will almost surely have to grant it at some point this night. You spend about half an hour getting ready for the night ahead, preparing yourself, straightening your hair, brushing dirt and dust off your clothes that has gathered over you as you slept. And just as you're deciding what you'd like to do tonight, perhaps you'd like to hunt, your phones all go off at the same time, except for you, Sylvia, as you don't have one, obviously. You'll find out from the coterie soon enough. Your phones beep, and at various points in the city, separated by miles, in unison you reach for your phones, and on the screen there's a message. It says, "The prince wishes to see you. Specs." Your first reaction is to wonder how the seneschal has your number. Second reaction is to grumble. Last time you went to see the prince, you were only meant to present yourselves to him and were roped into running his errands, finding Spider and bringing him before the prince. You don't relish with a task he'd have you perform tonight. Sylvia, you receive a message a different way. You step out of your haven into chapel proper to find Father Patrick seated in one of the pews, legs crossed, arms folded, his gaze shooting up towards you as soon as you enter. He brushes his long hair out of his face and smiles and says, "The seneschal has put out a call, my darling. We are to see the prince tonight." He looks you up and down. "Make sure you are presentable."
Alright. Any idea what he wants?
Patrick shrugs, and he says, "Alas, I may be in the Camarilla, but I'm still not in the inner circle. The seneschal mentions that the prince has some business with the Ventru Primogen tonight." And Sylvia, you grimace as he says this, the Ventru Primogen. You remember him from that night 4 years ago, Thornton Adams, a stuffy bore of a man, exuding an air of arrogance wherever he goes. So, you've all been summoned to see Prince Squizzy, but is there anything you'd like to do before you head out?
I'd like to try and meet with the others before we arrive, if that's possible.
Yep. Squizzy didn't provide a limo this time, and so Sylvia ends up travelling in travelling with Father Patrick. He won't let out of his sight, and this is the first time you've seen his car, Sylvia. He drives an old-fashioned Morris Minor. It looks like it's from the turn of the century, 1910s, 1920s at the latest, but it's been immaculately maintained. And as he forces you to sit in the passenger's seat, which has been pushed unusually close to him, so close that as you sit down, your leg brushes against his. You just find yourself growing irrationally frustrated with these arrogant displays of opulence. But, Derek, as you set out to head to the Prince dressed in your Tremere best, your phone beeps. It's a call from Hope.
Meet you on the way. Well, I like this underdress, like a few blocks from the Prince's place.
So, as agreed upon, Derek and Hope, you meet on a street corner on the very edge of Turak in the eastern suburbs. Standing in the shadow of a 2-story McMansion that dominates the street it's at the end of. Hold up your hands in greeting to each other. Hope.
Hey. Yeah, just some quick stuff. I wanted to let people know before I got there. I don't know what with Sylvia. Yeah, so first of all, what I got was that somebody in the Ventru screwed up, and so something's happening that's going to affect us. So we might learn that tonight.
Okay.
Second thing is that I might have hacked Two's phone, and he's sniffing around trying to get leverage on us for, like, I don't know, revenge or blackmail material. He's not after you or Dahlia, because I think you got clan connections, but he is watching me and Sylvia. Also, somebody probably knows that I hacked Two's phone because they sent a really inept burglar to kind of go break into my place.
Yeah, Hope recounts a short story of returning to the tattoo parlor that she makes her haven one night about a week or two ago after she'd been meeting with Sage, to find that somebody had entered her office, unlocked the computer, and browsed through Broderick Chew's email inbox, and apparently they didn't like what they found there because they punched the computer tower so hard that there was a fist-sized dent in the side of it.
So I'm thinking either a ghoul or some neonate. It was some neonate's test, and they did a lousy job. Anyway, it's not too because he sent messages afterwards. But somebody in court has some useless info, and I beefed up my security, so I don't care. But if you catch Sylvia alone before I do, just warn her that, like, Broderick 2 is probably going to be trying to catch her alone or something. Probably he's going to spy on her.
Yeah, well.
Thanks. Sorry to talk a mile a minute. Do you have anything you want to talk about before we go in?
No, assuming, I would have passed on what I'd learned already, wouldn't I? That would have been a bit earlier, wouldn't it?
Yep.
No, just, at least if it's about the Ventru, it's not about what I'd been doing. That's good.
Yeah, you feel a slight amount of relief that apparently you're not on this list of people that Broderick Chew is looking into. And so we cross to Vincent. Vincent, you've been summoned to speak to the Prince. This is a rare opportunity, and one who, as a Ventru, you relish for your chance to curry favour and claw ever so slightly higher up the kindred hierarchy. This would be only the second time you've actually been summoned to speak with the Prince face to face since you were embraced 5 years ago. And you want to make sure that you make the very best impression you can. So Vincent, how do you prepare? How do you make yourself presentable? What do you wear?
Vincent generally is wearing a pretty standard attire, uniform almost, of a powder blue suit. Today it's a bit more of a navy option, and jacket and tie are done up properly this time, unlike his normal messy display. His hair's all sort of arranged nicely and very well combed. But Vincent's, he's trying to maintain a sort of a level of presentability, but he's clearly fidgety and uncomfortable tonight.
Yeah, and also a little hungry, so the hunger added with the nervousness of speaking to the prince makes your beast fidget inside you. You hope this isn't going to cause another incident, not after what happened a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And as you finish straightening your hair, step out of the bathroom, what does your haven look like?
My haven is just a well-maintained, somewhat sparsely decorated apartment. It's, you're not going to find any looked-after plants or anything in there. There's a large flat screen on the main wall. The bed is poorly made, and there are clothes sort of strewn about the place over chairs and things. It's nice, but in negligent disarray.
Yeah.
Not horrifically messy, but obviously not well maintained.
But it is in the middle of Melbourne. An inner city apartment like this is definitely not something you could get on the cheap, so that should speak volumes as to how comfortable Vincent was in life.
Absolutely, it's just a little hard to get, good help at middle of the night.
So as you pull the bathroom door shut, begin walking through the loft, catch sight of yourself in the reflection of the flat screen and adjust your collar. The phone vibrates in your pocket. You reach down, lift it up, and there's another message. It's from your sire, and it says, "Hurry up, I'm waiting for you." Instantly you groan, and you realise why the prince wants to speak to you. You adjust your collar again. Perhaps, if you make a good impression, you might be able to salvage something of your reputation.
Don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up.
And so, about an hour later, all of you are gathered to see the prince in Squizzy's palatial Turak estate, here in his inner sanctum, his personal study. Squizzy himself sits in his leather office chair behind the antique desk of aged mahogany. You're all surrounded by the kitschy opulence of someone who wishes to appear rich, but doesn't care for taste. Derek and Hope, as Standish, the ghoul, leads you through Squizzy's home into the inner sanctum and pushes open the heavy door. You step into the room and find several people already assembled. There's Squizzy himself, as I said, but to his right, his narrow eyes carefully watching you from behind his thick glasses, is the seneschal, Specs, his face as neutral, unknowable as ever. Seated on the leather couch to the left of the desk is Father Patrick, and sitting half on his lap, a rather uncomfortable look on her face, is Sylvia, and as you enter, she just looks over at you, silently pleading. Standing across from Father Patrick and Sylvia are three others who you've not seen. Three others. One you've seen before. You instantly recognise him as Thornton Adams, the Ventru Primogen. His silver hair sort of glowing in the dim light of the desk lamp. His white, immaculately tailored suit looking more like a dirty grey as he stands on the very edge of the room, leaning against the wall with his arms folded. Beside him stands presumably another Ventru. A tall man, maybe in his early to mid-30s, with long black hair tied in a ponytail. He doesn't wear any glasses, but around his neck is a thick golden chain, and rather than wearing a suit, he's wearing a dress jacket and slacks. Just visible under the dress jacket is some sort of t-shirt with, you think, a band logo just visible under the neck of his jacket. And then, standing before him, their face neutral, perhaps a little worried, you see Vincent.
Vincent sort of nods towards the group and then quickly avoids eye contact.
Squizzy stands up from his chair, he claps, and he says, "Good! All my friends are here. Derek, Hope, take a seat, make yourselves comfortable." He gestures to empty chairs in front of the desk, and then to the leather couch where Father Patrick and Sylvia sit.
I'll go take a seat next to Father Patrick and Sylvia if there's any room.
You sit down, park yourself, sink into the leather upholstery, and Sylvia takes this chance to shift herself off Father Patrick's lap closer to you. He looks over at you and frowns. Derek, where do you go?
I'm going to take one of the chairs.
Yep. Pull out one of the wooden chairs in front of the desk, sit down, and calmly look back at the prince. The prince nods. He says, "Sylvia, Derek, Hope, meet Vincent." He gestures towards the Ventru. He says, "Vincent's going to be working with you from now on."
Vincent sort of swallows uncomfortably.
Hello.
Ladies, gentlemen.
Alright.
Squizzy smiles and says, This isn't a punishment, Vincent. This is an opportunity to make more friends."
Of course, my friends.
Behind Vincent... Yes, Hope?
Only one success to see how full of shit Squizzy is with that. So I can't tell.
Yeah, he's just being his usual, perhaps, faux jovial self. And then, as if to answer any questions you may have, Specs gestures towards the two older Ventru and says, "This is an arrangement between your prince and Thornton Adams, the Ventru Primogen." Thornton frowns. He unfolds his arms, shifts himself off the wall, and then he looks towards you and he says, "Neonates, it's been a while. It's nice to see you again. Nice to hear that you've been making yourselves useful."
We try.
He nods silently at Father Patrick, who nods back. Thornton steps forwards, places his hands on the right shoulder of the Ventru in a dress jacket in front of him. And he says, "This is Elliot Palmer. He's a personal friend of mine. He's one of the more reliable Ventru in this city and has been a valuable member of our clan." Elliot Palmer nods. Father Patrick raises a hand and says, "Yes, Mr. Palmer was the one who vouched for my approaching the camarilla in the first place." "Yes, indeed," says Elliot Palmer, "and it is nice to see, may I say, that you have been welcomed and accepted into our midst." Thornton Adams nods, and then he says, "Well, as you can see, Mr. Palmer is quite the wheeler and dealer. He negotiated Father Patrick's acceptance into the camarilla, and Occasionally, I put him to work as a diplomat, meeting with other clans or representatives from other cities. Elliot's child, young Vincent here, was being groomed for much the same purpose. But
Vincent sort of pulls at his cuff.
Yeah, Vincent pulls at his cuff, and Thornton notices this, and he just nods, and he says, Vincent unfortunately made a mistake. He gestures towards Specs. Specs nods, and says, Indeed, and this mistake may have cost our prince a very valuable alliance. Elliot Palmer frowns. He looks at Vincent, gazing into his eyes, and then he turns and addresses the room in general. I sent my child to negotiate with a representative of Prince Vera of Adelaide. I felt that after 5 years of my instruction and careful guidance, that he would be more than capable of negotiating the terms of an alliance between Adelaide's Camarilla and our own. As he says this, Thornton smiles, but I'd like all of you to please make a wits awareness check.
Well, alrighty then. Only one success.
3 successes.
3 successes, Derek?
3 successes.
Well, 3 successes.
Only one.
Okay, well, so Sylvia and Vincent, you both notice as he says this that Squizzy's face briefly twists into a confused scowl, regains his composure within a fraction of a second, but you still register that flicker of confusion on his face upon hearing the name Prince Vera. Indeed, says Specs. Thornton and myself deigned to contact the Adelaide Camarilla. After all, Baron Sue has apparently made herself known in the city, and as she's originally from Adelaide, we felt that they might be able to render some assistance. Unfortunately, Vincent let his beast get the better of him and felt that dominating Prince Vera's representative was the best course of action. Thornton winces, as does Elliot. Elliot says, and you can guess how that went. Thornton smiles cruelly in Vincent's direction, says, Yes. Well, now there's to be no alliance at all, or if there is, it's going to require far more pressing, and we're going to have to start once again from the very beginning. And so Elliot thought that it would be prudent to give young Vincent a test to see if Vincent is indeed capable of serving the Camarilla and showing to us all that the mistake he made was just a simple one-off error in judgment. Hence, he will be assisting you three from this point onwards.
Oh.
I'll not fail you, my prince. May I ask to you who these people are?
Squizzy nods. He ignores what Vincent says for a moment, raises an eyebrow, turns to Specs and the Ventru, and he says, Prince Vera, Adelaide, why didn't I hear about this? What are you playing at? Specs raises a hand and says, We didn't see fit to bother you with it, my prince. After all, you've made no bones about how much you despise Prince Vera and Adelaide Camarilla in general. Squizzy frowns for a moment. He says silently that the seneschal and the ventru. Then he shrugs, and he says, uptight bitch is what she is. I feel much more comfortable among all my friends here. And then he turns to Vincent, and he says, young Vincent, these are my friends. They assisted me on a very important matter a month ago. Indeed, it is thanks to them that we now know the anarchs in this city are organising, that Baron Sue is here, and it is thanks to them that we know the Second Inquisition is making moves in secret. He says, not only are they my friends, they've proven that they're quite good at troubleshooting. And, well, I feel that at the moment you need friends, and so I would like to share my friends with you, to give you the opportunity to make yourself useful to myself and to this coterie, so that we may all, as friends in the Camarilla, do what is best for our city and for kindred in general.
I take it Vincent can, see the veiled threat implied.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, okay, cool. Understood, my prince.
Now, as it's your first night together, I think perhaps I won't put you to work just yet. The best friends are friends who get to know each other first, and so I was thinking that Specs here might show you some of my favourite spots in the city, maybe grant you access to some of my vessels so that you can drink together, get to know each other, and at this point he's interrupted by a loud electronic beeping. Specs reaches a hand into his breast pocket, pulls out a pager. He looks at it and he frowns. He leans towards Squizzy, whispers something in his ear. You see Squizzy's normally jovial face immediately change to a mask of barely concealed anger. He clenches his fist. He raises it, about to bring it down on the mahogany desk. Just at the last moment, he takes a breath, unclenches his fist, forces his face into a smile. Well, let's take a rain check on that, shall we, friends? It looks like you will have business to attend to tonight. There's been a Masquerade breach. He sees the looks on your faces, and then he says, Club Violet, one of the places in the CBD, used to be one of my favourites until Miss Diamante and her Toreador decided to remodel it to capture the modern crowd.
Vincent just sort of mutters, goddamn Tories, under his breath.
Squizzy notices you saying this and he looks at you, but rather than reprimanding you, he just smiles as if he's agreeing with you. And he says, well, Club Violet is part of my legacy, indeed contains part of my legacy, and it appears something has gone terribly wrong. Specs' agents have intercepted a phone call coming from within the nightclub. Phone call to the police. He nods, and Specs reaches into his pocket, pulls out a smartphone and swipes his finger across the screen. Immediately you hear static, and then the wavering voice of a terrified woman. Can't make out what she's saying at first, and the dispatch operator tries to calm her down. Ma'am, can't hear what you're saying. Ma'am, please. Speak calmly and slowly. Ma'am. Everyone's dying. She's gone crazy. Jumping everywhere, ripping people's heads off, and blood all over the floor, and... I'm sorry, ma'am. There's a fight, or... She's killing everyone! The recording stops. Squizzy looks around silently to gauge your reactions.
Oh boy.
Vincent just looks kind of like annoyed.
Hope looks horrified.
His normally jovial smile twisting into a frown once more. Looks at you each in turn, and he says, "Go to Club Violet, find out what has happened, and capture whoever is responsible." Specs nods, and he says, "The Sheriff at D's should already be on his way there. He'll be able to help you. And once he hears word of what's happened..." Squizzy nods. "Larson will be on his way too."
Oh, good.
Question, sir. I don't think we've encountered Sheriff Adiz. What does he look like?
He says, "You'll recognize him when you see him. He's a Banu Hakim, so brown skin, vaguely Middle Eastern appearance. There won't be any civilians there. He's the only one who will actually be stupid enough to linger after whatever happened. Try to assist him as best you can, but remember, he's a Banu Hakim, and even though he's the sheriff, anything he does, any problems he solves, end up getting added to the list of transactions that Mistress Aisha eventually shove in my face when she makes her push for the Primogen Council once again."
I will smile and nod like this all makes sense to me.
He raises
Not ask about words I don't understand.
Yeah. Squizzy raises a hand and brushes it in the air, and he says, "Well, time's wasting. Get down there, friends."
Glance over to Vincent. Do you have a ride?
I do.
Okay. Then we'll see you there, I guess.
Sure.
So, you stand up. Sylvia extracts herself from Father Vincent's grasp.
Oh, and what's your number? I'll ask Vincent and... Okay, here's my name.
Yeah.
And you get ready to attend to the task you've been assigned. Is there anything any of you would like to do on the way to Club Violet?
I assume Vincent has a better understanding of kindred politics.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. Are there any? You all had some pretty confused looks on your faces when Squizzy was giving that speech. Is there anything that can help elucidate?
Vincent says
Yes.
to you as you all make your way out of Squizzy's estate and begin walking down the long driveway to where Vincent's car is parked on the street curb.
Sure. That would be good, actually. Banu Hakim. I don't know a thing about them.
Vincent, you know them to be a clan. You know their presence in the city is relatively small. There may be only 2 or 3 of them in the city. They're nominally a Camarilla clan, but they seem to put themselves above the sect itself, or at least this is what the other Camarilla clans, the Ventru and the Toreador specifically, would have you believe.
I've heard some particularly old licks call them Assamites.
Okay. And, sheriff. I'm assuming some kind of lawgiver.
That one's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay. Just making sure. Welcome aboard Task Force X, you know the deal. I offer a handshake.
Vincent sort of uncomfortably takes it, and quickly, in this situation, you see him sort of wipe his palm slightly surreptitiously.
I know you don't want to be here, and that's fine. You don't flex over. and I will try to make sure you get a good review. Get you
My
out of
line.
here as fast as possible. Sound good?
We'll make this work.
The heavy wrought iron gates shut behind you as you step out onto the street, walking towards Vincent's vehicle. And what does Vincent drive?
It is a Honda CRX. It's a pretty small car, but he loves it.
Colour?
Hope so. Kawasaki she suits on.
Yep.
It's white.
White, yes. Of course. Clean and pure, just like the Ventru. Hope climbs onto the little Kawasaki dirt bike that she's been driving around for the last month. And before you head out, is there anything you'd like to do?
Is my apartment on the way?
Your tattoo parlor? Yeah, technically on the way. Well, it's in St. Kilda, which is, not too far out of the way.
I'll speed over and pick up a handgun.
Yep. Sylvia, Derek?
Then proceed to club.
I think I'm good, yeah.
Yeah, that should be good.
If you'd like to go hunting, you could probably squeeze that in, depending on how well you roll.
I can definitely use some food.
Yeah, maybe actually. That might be a good idea.
Right? So Derek, you climb into your car, and does Derek drive?
It's nothing super fancy. I don't have the best knowledge of cars, so I don't really know what to say specifically.
Do you have any dots in resources?
None in resources, no, so it's nothing special.
So Derek, you just climb into your old beater. The rust bucket, you affectionately call it. It's an old sedan from the 1970s. No one even knows what make and model it is because the badges fell off long ago. And the only way you've made it your own is by plastering the back windshield and the passenger side window with car stickers that show off very occult-looking symbols and pictures of cryptids and vampires and obscure religious icons. Is there anything you'd like to do before heading to Club Violet?
I suppose probably I'll try and squeeze in a hunt too.
Yep. Okay, so we'll go with Sylvia first. So, Sylvia, you agree to meet the others at Club Violet, and then you start to wander the streets until you can hail a taxi, climb in a taxi, and direct it into the city itself, towards the university where your haven is. And as the taxi brings you into Carlton and deposits you on the edge of the campus, you look around. This entire city block is your domain now. You only need to find someone who suits your specific preferences. Your predator type is Gravedigger, I believe?
Grave robber, yep.
Grave robber, yep, that's it. So, Sylvia, please go ahead and you may make a resolve plus medicine check if you want to feed from a corpse, or manipulation and insight if you'd like to find a living person, perhaps someone who is wandering the neighbouring graveyard at this time of night, or waiting in your chapel to see the Undertaker to discuss funeral plans.
Yeah, if I'm near the morgue that, the funeral home where I work, I would just like to drop by there and, let my boss know I'm taking another night off work, very sorry, and just take a quick sip from whoever I'm working on at the moment.
Yep, so make a resolve plus medicine check, please. And you get an extra dice, because the specialty will be cadavers, which I think you have as part of this predator type.
A lovely 7 successes, but it's a messy critical.
Messy critical, ooh. So, you enter the morgue that's attached to the Learning Hospital on the edge of campus. briefly stop into your boss's office, knocking on the door, letting him know you're taking another night off, and he shrugs. He says, that's fine. Emily and Brett will both be in just after midnight. They'll handle what's left of Mr. Broderick. And then you head down into the morgue, move to one of the cadavers, the one containing Mr. Jason Broderick, a recently deceased car accident victim who you've been working on preparing for burial. And as soon as you open the cadaver and see his lifeless eyes staring up at you, your beast roars. The hunger mixed with the frustration of once again being humiliated by the hands of Father Patrick combine. You bare your teeth and just sink them into the corpse, draining every drop of blood from within. Reset your hunger to 1, but you drink so ferociously, so furiously, that when the pleasure subsides and the last drops of blood roll down your gullet, your senses return, pull yourself away from the corpse, and realize you've shredded his neck completely and eviscerated a portion of his face.
God.
Oh shit. Okay. Quickly cover that up and drop back by the boss's office. Hey, so I feel so bad. I feel like I've been skipping so many nights. Em and Bren, they've been covering for me so often. I'll take care of Broderick. Yeah, just tell them I'll take care of it tomorrow. Okay? Just make sure they don't go near it, please. It's Em's birthday soon, and I don't want her to have to.
Please,
look at that guy.
Please make a manipulation persuasion check.
One success.
One success.
Oh.
He frowns. I'm going to roll an insight check for him. 0 successes. He frowns, looks up from the pile of paperwork that he's dealing with, and then he just nods. Yeah, all right. Mr. Broderick's yours. I'll put Brett on that Jane Doe, and we'll have Emily assist with some of the paperwork for Mr. Broderick's family then. But remember, he's to be done by tomorrow night. Funeral's on Sunday.
Yep, sure. No worries. We'll see you. Bye.
So, Sylvia, you have managed to cover up your mistake and will not lose a resources dot. Your pay would have been docked if he discovered. So, let us now move to Vincent. Vincent, what is your predator type?
I'm Siren.
A Siren, lovely. So please go ahead and roll a charisma plus subterfuge check.
3 successes.
3 successes. You drive your car into the CBD, into the rack, as Kindred call it, Melbourne's nightlife, the Prince's own personal domain where every Kindred is free to hunt and drink so long as they follow the traditions. You find yourself bristling with jealousy as the others mention heading back to their domains to hunt, even though you have a full year on them. And a generation as well, being a 12th generation Ventru. You don't have domain to call your own. And so every time you need to hunt, this is where you come.
Vincent is quite confused as to what Coterie could possibly have done
Yeah,
for such luxury.
And so you start prowling through the busy, well-lit streets of Melbourne, a creature of the night, illuminated for all to see. Eventually you stop into a small hipster bar, take a seat at the counter, and start to chat up. A young man, looks like he's fresh out of uni, early to mid-20s at the oldest, and he grumbles to you about his new job. He's recently been hired in an entry-level position at a local insurance firm, and even though for the last 12 months he's been there, he's demonstrated his initiative and his unique skills many times. So far, he hasn't been noticed by his superiors, and he's bristling at the fact that he can't seem to climb the corporate ladder.
Sounds like we're in a similar boat.
The conversation takes a turn. You start to bond over this unique experience, as you, in a sense, are also climbing a corporate ladder in a world very different to his, but similar in more ways than one. And after about half an hour, you ask him if he'd like to go and grab something to eat with you. He agrees to this and relishes the chance, especially as you mention that you will be paying. 20 minutes later, you're walking out of the alleyway behind... well, it's a pizza shop, but it caters to the inner city upmarket clientele. It's the type of place where you pay $20 for a single slice, and it doesn't call them pizzas, it calls them Italian cuisine. As you step out of the alleyway behind this store, you toss the slice of pizza you bought into a nearby trash can and wipe the blood off your lips. Please reduce your hunger to 1.
Okay. I don't suppose I got him to take any cocaine in the process of that.
Yeah, you did.
Awesome.
So,
Right.
actually, just please describe. This is Vincent's special quality. So, as you feed from him, as you buy him a slice of pizza, and then the two of you leave the store looking for a place to eat it, you subtly direct him to the alleyway, and as soon as the shadows conceal you from the passers-by, you half forcefully, half seductively press him against the brick wall of the neighbouring building, take a bite out of your pizza, and talk him into doing a line of coke. And so, as you step out onto the streets now, wiping the blood off your lips, your eyes grow bloodshot, your pupils dilate, and you look from left to right as you feel the cocaine taking effect, and are now under its influence.
It's 1 die to balls.
Yep.
And 2 roll to reroll messy or bestials. But it's also +1 difficulty to resist frenzy.
Yep. An hour later, just shy of 10 p.m, the 4 of you arrive at Club Violet in the midst of the Docklands. Club Violet is a converted warehouse right on the waterfront. The Yarra River running behind it like an inky black vein through the heart of the city. Club Violet is on its own at the end of a street, surrounded by nothing but empty lots, a couple of parks here and there that were converted out of old logistics and freight lots. The warehouse's facade has been retrofitted to appear modern and trendy. A big neon sign above the double steel doors that serve as the entrance blinks on and off Club Violet. The steel walls are covered in graffiti, but not tags, the type of graffiti that's real art. And there are posters for various gothic and new metal bands emblazoned all over the front of the building. As you make your way down the road towards Club Violet, you see a person standing in the light of a nearby street lamp, looking in your direction. He's wearing thick cargo camo pants, a black tank top, and his brown tattooed skin is illuminated in the light. He's just as Squizzy described, Middle Eastern in appearance, Turkish, Lebanese, or maybe even from somewhere like Dubai. He's the type of Middle East that's been diluted through several generations of Australian immigrants, and his true origin is no longer visible in how he looks, other than a vague hint that his family came from somewhere else decades and decades ago. Raises a hand as you approach.
I raise one back.
You the neonates Squizzy sent?
Yes, and I'm going to assume you'll be Mr. Adiz.
He holds out a hand, he nods. Yeah. Adiz.
He gives a shake.
Shakes your hands one by one, he says, Adiz Sadiq, but you can call me Eddie if you like, everyone does.
Eddie, yeah, sure.
Adiz.
So, I sent the call out to Squizzy about an hour ago. Said he'd be sending some people along. Was expecting Larson to get here first, to be honest, but perhaps it's a good thing he's not yet. Should give us some time to look around. What's Squizzy told you about the situation?
We heard he played the call for us. Some woman flipped out in the club and started a murdering. That's what we know.
Eddie nods. Right, yeah. There's been a bloodbath inside. He gestures his thumb towards the closed metal doors behind him. He says, look, to be honest, usually I handle these things on my own, but whatever's happened in there, it's big. This is probably the biggest Masquerade breach I've seen in years. I'm just going to straight up say it. Something's gone wrong, and I wouldn't say no to a couple of extra hands. Especially when Larson turns up and makes a mess of things.
Do you have any idea what happened here at all?
Well, he says, been a bloodbath inside. Someone's called out for help. You've heard the call. Had a quick look. Everyone's in there dead. Whoever's responsible is long gone. Hoping there'll be some sort of clue as to where we can find them. But here's what's most important. Here's what I didn't mention, and here's what Specs didn't mention to Squizzy. Whoever's responsible has stolen an item of great value. Well, to the prince anyway, from inside. It's the only thing in there that has any tie to the prince. Miss Diamante. Go ahead, Hope.
It's the painting, isn't it?
Yep, it's definitely the painting.
He looks at you, raises an eyebrow, and says, been here before?
Yeah, 2 or 3 times.
He nods. He says, well, that'll help then. At least I don't have to show you around. You'll be able to tell what's out of place. But yeah, painting of Ned Kelly and the Kelly gangs. Some sort of Australian classic. I don't know damn thing about art, but it was important to Squizzy, and, well, his one condition that he levelled on Miss Diamante was that no matter what she did to this club, she was to keep that painting there. It's her club, you see, but Squizzy's the one who got it on its feet back before he was prince, and he and Maria were partners in a sense, trying to establish themselves in the city's nightlife. Well, he put a couple of competitors out of business, allowed this place to flourish. She's been in his debt ever since, and part of that is that this painting stays on the wall. Squizzy reckons it's worth a lot of money. I've heard him go on about it. Couple $1,000s, maybe even tens of thousands. It's an original, it's not a reprint. And I know enough about art to know that when it's an original by the original artist, it's worth a lot of money.
Vincent sort of chuckles at the concept of it being worth just a few thousand or maybe tens of thousands.
Yeah, you know it's probably worth more like 100,000 or more, especially if it's by the original artist. And hearing the description of a Ned Kelly painting, you have a feeling who the artist might be, and this particular artist's works usually fetch a high price. So whoever's come in here, knocked everyone off, knows what they were doing. They know that painting was important to the prince. They haven't taken anything else from the scene, just this painting. That makes me think whoever did it got something against the prince, and he trails off for a moment and thinks about his next words, and he says, well, I'm sure you've heard scuttlebutt on the streets. Baron Sue's back in town, and anarchs may be mobilizing.
It seems a little bloody for the local anarchs, but maybe somebody out of town. Yeah, that might explain it.
He shrugs. Yeah, well, look, if it is the anarchs, they've never done anything like this before. Killing everyone in a nightclub is a big masquerade breach, and in my experience, even they're not that stupid. But if they're mobilizing, could be they've got some friends from out of town, could be their handiwork, or he leans in, could be the Sabbat. God forbid.
We better get in there then.
Right, he says. Now, I've tapped my contacts, managed to delay the police response, but they are on their way. When they get here, I'd appreciate some help talking to them, convincing them nothing's wrong and that they should forget that they were sent here in the first place. Squizzy said the SI is in the city, and if that's true, then we definitely don't need word of an entire nightclub being massacred to get out.
Okay.
Yeah.
He says, well, I'll leave you to it. I've got a couple more contacts I need to get in touch with. Place is yours. Doors unlocked. Give it a once over. Let me know if you find anything, and we'll compare notes. And just keep an eye out. When the police come, be ready.
Okay.
With that, he gives you one more nod, reaches into his pocket, pulls out a flip phone, and walks towards... Yep, Hope.
Is the plan to have like a cleanup team clean all this up after the police leave?
He nods as he flips open the phone. Yeah. I got people who can handle that. We just got to keep the authorities from getting in there, taking photos and the like.
Okay.
Steps away from you towards the waterfront, stands on the edge of the river looking down into the black void, and then you hear him say, yeah. Look, no need to clean up. It's, yeah. He looks over his shoulder, sees you all standing there, and begins to walk down the street, out of the street light and out of earshot. So, what would you guys like to do?
First off, Vincent sort of just pulls her beside, and all of a sudden he's kind of all smiles, and he's very friendly looking. He says, you mentioned something about anarchs there. Know much about them?
Well, yeah, it's no real secret. When we were tossed together in the city and found by a member of your clan, actually, you know anything about Marcus?
Indeed, Vincent, you've heard of a Ventru called Marcus. He's about similar in his influence level to your sire, but he went missing about 4 years ago, and no one knows what happened to him, although there are rumours, and they range from that he ran afoul of the prince and was secretly executed, that he had to flee the city, or that he quit the Camarilla and joined the Anarchs and was a turncoat all along.
Marcus here. Alright, well, that's all you know, just wondering. Thanks. Sort of slaps Harp on the shoulder a bit, sort of continues back to the group.
Internal monologue. He knows nothing about Marcus.
Yeah. Everyone who hears has the same impression. So you stand before the big steel doors that serve as the entrance to Club Violet, and as you place your hand on the handle and pull, the door begins to groan as it slides open. The place is indeed unlocked, and through the crack you can still see the pulsating purple and white lights inside, and can hear the sound of new metal pulsating within.
All right. Still got the soundtrack going.
So
Hold on in.
who's going to be handling the police?
I probably should handle that.
You are the Ventru.
Yeah.
Just the same, you follow the others in for now. You step forward, pull open the door, and allow the others in, Vincent. You're the last in after them. Pull the door shut behind you, and it clangs. It takes your eyes a couple of seconds to adjust to the atmosphere inside the club, to learn to see clearly in the couple seconds of light between periods of darkness. And when you see the scene in front of you, you feel your jaw slacken and drop open. There is blood everywhere. A pool about 2 inches deep covers the entire floor of Club Violet. The walls are spattered with gore. You're fairly certain you see a kidney standing on the DJ's turntable. You're not sure who it belongs to, but the DJ's torso is about 10 feet away, near the center of the room. Sense of blood, sweat, and fear fill the air, rousing a beastly hunger within you.
Suddenly they got one of the good DJs.
Yeah. You recognize him almost immediately, Hope. It's DJ Fuzz.
Oh,
one of Melbourne's greatest, famous in the gothic and nu metal communities.
Shit.
His torso just lies on the floor, his face frozen in terror, mouth wide open, staring up at the blinking purple and white lights. You're suddenly thankful that you decided to feed before coming here.
Okay. So, just I don't know. So I'm going to go try to find the security room and see if there's footage. So, Sylvia, you think some CSI might be good here? Get an idea of, like, I don't know, Sherlock Holmes shit, the attacker's height.
Yep.
Did.
Yeah, I've never really seen anything like this, but I've seen some messed up shit, so I can give it a shot.
This is definitely high up on the messed up shit-o-meter.
Yeah, it's top 3, I think.
I don't know where you other two are best utilized. I say turning to the guys, so you figure that out. Okay, cool.
Yep. So you'll each be able to perform. You'll each be able to perform 2 actions. However, the person who's handling the police will only get to do 1, because the police will arrive after you conduct the first part of your investigation.
And if Vincent makes it known he'll handle then that. Oh, cool, thank you.
At this point, Vincent feels it pertinent to sort of ask, sorry, so who are you people?
Okay.
We're familiar with each other's capacities, but I don't know any of you yet.
So let me give you the TLDR.
Yeah.
The way we all got together was 4 years ago. We were kidnapped by the Second Inquisition. We busted out, ran into Marcus on the way out. And he got us overnighted in our safe house. Then, and we took on this Inquisition later on when the Camarilla asked us to do that, and we did that successfully.
Okay.
And that's who we are. I am Hope. I am basically a mutt. I'm a caitiff. That's I'll point to the others.
Yep, I'm Sylvia. Nice to meet you. We'll have time for icebreakers some other time, hopefully.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes, and I'm Derek, and same. And then I'll wait for the moment.
Vincent, at this point, you decide to formally introduce yourself. You simply say, Vincent, 12th generation Ventru. And the rest of you hear thinly disguised veil of arrogance hanging on these words.
You get a look of frank ignorance. Generation.
Genuinely, you don't know.
No.
Vincent goes into the backstory of how generations work.
Yeah.
Somewhat, at least what he's heard.
So Vincent describes to you that at least among the Ventru, vampires count their lineage from the supposed original vampire. Each generation removed from this original vampire means that your blood is weaker, and Vincent proudly explains that among the Ventru, the lower generation, the better, for it means your blood is purer, closer to the original vampire, and therefore you are more worthy to serve, more worthy to receive power in the clan.
And is it like terms like antediluvian and stuff sort of come through?
Yeah. Well, how many dots in occult does Vincent have?
Actually, none. So
none. Yeah. So you don't know that. So you literally only know that there's an original vampire, and that some vampires track how far removed they are from this original vampire. And you are 12th generation, which means that there are 11 vampires separating you from the beginning of this curse. And then you proudly explain to the others that most neonates of these knights are 13th generation or higher. You have literally superior blood to them.
Awesome.
Sylvia has already wandered off to look at the bodies.
Yep. Yeah, Sylvia doesn't care about that.
Security room now. Cool.
So, as you leave Vincent to contemplate his superiority, you notice, just as Adiz said, the patch of the wall where the painting was. You could still see the outline of dust where it hung. It's been removed, and that wall is smeared with blood. So, Sylvia, please make an intelligence medicine check.
I will spend a point of willpower.
Yep, go ahead.
4 successes.
4 successes. You make your way around the dance floor, examining the bodies. There's about 24 people scattered here after you count up all the body parts and put them back together in your mind. The cause of death is simple for all of them. They've been eviscerated, torn apart as if by a wild animal. There are huge bite marks on each and every one of them. Limbs have been torn off with some great force, and one of them is completely drained of blood, completely exsanguinated. The rest of them are not, though you notice that the volume of blood is much lower than you would expect it to be. Of course, some of this can be accounted for by the blood that's sprayed across the floor and walls, but even then, most of these bodies seem to hold less blood than they should, and you quickly come to the conclusion that someone has fed from them. And so now, I'd like you to make an intelligence investigation check, and you may add 2 extra dice because you got your medicine check and gleaned some information for you.
That's only 1 success.
Only 1 success? It's enough to put together a vague image in your mind of what happened here. You study where the limbs that have been torn off have landed, the trajectory of the blood spatters, the bite marks on several of the people. Close your eyes and imagine you see a single person speeding across the dance floor, attacking the people one by one, each time taking just enough blood from them to continue using their powers. And then, at the very end, ending their frenzy by exsanguinating one of the patrons. Based on how all the bodies are grouped together on the dance floor, you determine that this all must have happened extremely quickly, perhaps within a single minute.
Can I tell whether they were using any weapons or anything like that, or is it barehanded or
You can tell. You can't see any signs that a weapon was used. It looks like all of this carnage was done with someone's bare hands.
Okay. I will just kind of call up my observations to the others, because I assume they're kind of in the vicinity.
Yeah, you just call out as you go around. Oh, this one was punched from the front, thrown against the wall. Massive force must have killed them. Whoever did it came from over there, and after they attacked this person, they went in that direction, and you start painting a partial picture of what happened to everyone present. Meanwhile, Hope, cautiously make your way across the bodies and the blood towards the door behind the bar. There are bottles of liquor lying on the ground, smashed, spilled, blood thrown across the mirror behind the bar, a single whiskey glass still intact on the counter, nearly full with a mixture of blood and whiskey. You locate... Yeah, yes, Hope, go ahead.
I think it's that really pisses her off. That this whole cavalier, oh, I killed everyone, this gets under her skin, and seeing that mixer that this fucker made on the way out.
Yeah.
That makes it a little personal.
Perhaps even brings to mind events in Hope's past that she's been trying desperately to forget.
Yeah.
In the back of the nightclub, you find a cramped little office. There's just enough room for a desk and a chair and a couple of cardboard boxes. It's the manager's office, but it also serves as a security room. On the computer's monitor, a series of security feeds are displayed. Please make an intelligence technology roll.
I'm going to attempt to give myself big brain energy.
Ah, yes.
By rousing the blood. Success! And maybe it's that cold anger, that righteousness that gives her a bit of an edge now. This is important. Fucker must pay.
So you sit down in the chair, start tapping on the keyboard, feeling the frustration building. Come on, you want to find who did this. Click into the security feeds and begin to scroll back to hours ago. Going back to roughly when Sylvia thinks this takes place, to about an hour before Squizzy received the call, and then keep skipping forwards in 5-minute intervals until you find what you're looking for. You can almost feel the pulsating bass in the pit of your stomach as you watch the revelers in the club. There are roughly 24 people dancing, drinking, partying. Coloured lights flash and flicker to the beat. In the far corner of the room sits a DJ booth where DJ Fuzz is spinning a record. Along the back wall is the small, well-stocked bar. The bartender looks up towards the front of the club, and you see a woman dressed in a black leather jacket and dark jeans step into frame. The lower half of her face is smeared with blood. As you see this, I'd like you to make either a wits awareness or a wits investigation check, please, Hope.
Well, they're both the same number. Also, I'm going to freeze the frame and take a shot with my computer screen with my phone.
Snap her face. It's rather blurry. You can only just make out the features. You can only really just make out that it's a female because of the body
Only
shape.
one success. Yeah.
One success, so you're not entirely sure, but the way she enters the frame suggests that she did not enter the club from the front entrance, but rather appears to have come from the direction of the fire exit.
Okay.
You continue pulling the feed. As soon as she enters the room, she steps onto the dance floor and then begins to move in a whirling blur A murderous burst of gory mayhem ensues. She rips throats out, tears off limbs, and drinks every drop of blood she can to keep the carnage going, jumping from one person to the next. Even as they try to scramble away, only realise how futile the attempt is. It all happens so fast that by the time people realise what is happening, it's already too late for them. After the horror is over, you see the woman stop, and she begins to move once again at a normal speed. She casually makes her way towards the wall where the painting of Ned Kelly hangs, and she carefully lifts it off the wall, slings it under her shoulder, and then turns towards the camera, smiles, and steps out of frame.
I'll capture the outside cameras on the off chance, at the same time slot on the off chance that one of them caught her.
Yep. I'd like you to make another intelligence technology roll, please.
Still boosted. Hang on. Why did that not take?
I'm good at doing the syntax thing.
Ah, yeah, syntax.
Only one success.
Only
This is
one
important.
success.
Hang on. I think this is important.
Yep.
I'll sigh and scrutinize it carefully, poring over everything. And get one more success, so 2 at the cost of willpower.
So,
2 total.
as you see her leave the frame, you map up a rough plan of the club in your head, trying to find out which direction she went, and then you start to scroll through the cameras, following her as she makes her way back across the dance floor towards the fire exit she presumably entered from. Here is where you see something that, if you were still alive, would cause your heart to skip a beat, as she casually makes her way through the piles of bodies and puddles of blood. She stops at 4 bodies, one at a time, opens her mouth, sinks her fangs into her wrist, and drops a single drop of blood into the gaping, terrified mouths of her victims.
What is she doing?
Damn, okay.
You follow her as she does this to 4 bodies, and then shrugs, makes her way out of the fire escape, and quickly switches to the outside camera that watches the back of the warehouse. She steps out of the club, walks towards the edge of the river, lifts up her arm and casually tosses the painting into the black void. And then she clenches her fists, and moving once again as a blur, she leaps off the side of the concrete, following painting down into the water. She disappears under the surface, and you see no more of her.
Okay. Last thing I'll do before I end this is I'll go and get screen caps of the bodies she fed? I don't know what's going on there.
Yep. So you freeze the camera at the points in the feed where she drops blood into the bodies. Take photos of the screen with your phone. Perhaps they'll come in useful. And what else would you like to do, Hope?
Well, after all that's done, I'll copy the tonight's video feed onto a thumb drive, then delete it and turn the cameras off.
Good idea. So make one final intelligence technology roll, please.
Alright. 3 successes. This is easy enough. Of course, empty the recycle folder so many people forget.
Yep. So you export all of the feeds onto a thumb drive that you plug into the tower, and once it's fully copied over, you pull out the thumb drive, delete the security feeds, and then completely scrub the recycle bin. There should be no evidence of what happened tonight. And then you stand up,
Cameras have been turned off.
Cameras have been turned off. You stand up, put the computer into standby, and step out of the office to rejoin the others.
And
Derek.
away I'll go looking for those 8 buddies that I saw her.
We'll do that as well. Yep, so we'll get to that in a moment. We'll just see what Derek does first. Derek, what would you like to do here? Is there any type of research you would like to conduct?
I had no idea what I wanted to do, but then Hope's thing did that all for me. So
Alright.
that's all right. I didn't realize it would reveal so much.
Well, you could possibly dispose of some evidence then. Like, you could search, see if there's anything around that, is evidence of the fact that this was a supernatural event, and dispose of it.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'd like you to please make an intelligence investigation check, Derek.
Cool, I'm going to roll for that.
Yep, go ahead.
What number is that? 10, so success. I just get hungrier.
Yes, you do not get hungrier.
Three. Only one success.
Only one success. It's hard to see with the light still blinking and the bodies and the blood everywhere. But you start to comb over the main room of the club, trying to find anything that should not be. And you notice a couple of things that should not be. The first is the glass on the bar, half filled with whiskey, half filled with blood. Next to it is something that you know is not normal, but you can't quite identify what it is. The best way to describe it would be a tiny water skin. There's blood still leaking out of the edge of it, but it seems to be made out of human flesh. The closest thing you can associate it with in your mind is Hope's flesh crafting. It's some sort of container for blood made out of flesh. Whatever it is, it should be disposed of immediately.
Yeah, I'll make sure to grab that.
Yep. So you're just going to pick that up and take that with you?
Yeah, hold on to it now, because I kind of want to show it to Hope.
Yes, good idea. Unfortunately, with only one success, you don't find anything else, but at least this thing, this blood pouch, whatever it is out of the way. Vincent, is there anything you're doing while you wait for the police to arrive?
Oh, okay, I kind of feel like everything's been a little bit covered at this point.
Yeah, don't appear to be any living witnesses, so...
Indeed.
Could always do cocaine.
Plenty of blood here, but it's dead blood.
Yeah.
It'd be very easy if I could. What's the selection behind the bar like?
So, you head over to the bar, take a look. There's some expensive top shelf stuff, but only a couple bottles. Most of it is the kind of stuff that would cater to the younger crowd who don't have a lot of disposable income. There's nothing like the cheap swill you'd find in a dive bar, but it's all very mid.
Okay. I'll just swipe the nicest whiskey they have there. It might come in handy later on.
Yep. So you just take it off the shelf. And as you do take it off the shelf, I'd like you to make a wits awareness check, please.
Awareness is 3, so plus 1 is 4. 4 successes.
4 successes. So as you identify a bottle of what was your favourite type of vodka back when you were alive, you make your way behind the bar and carefully lift this bottle to take with you. And as you lift it, that's when you notice something utterly disgusting. The vodka has a strange reddish tint to it, and it's only when you lift it up off the shelf and hold it in a light that you notice. And that's when you realise that all of the bottles of alcohol behind the bar have been tainted with blood.
Okay. I let the group know about this.
Do you still take the bottle of vodka, though?
Alright.
I mean, it's dead blood, but it's blood. And I just realised if Sylvia didn't go hunting, she would have just been able to feed here.
Yeah, I'm realising that too.
We were going to a crime scene.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I won't be able to drink that, given being adventure, but it could come in handy.
So, at this point, Vincent, you hear the sound of voices coming from outside the club, just barely audible over the din of the music. You realise this is the police approaching. So, you leave the others to their grisly task and make your way once again through the thick metal door, stepping out onto the cold waterfront. You see 4 police officers walking down the road towards you.
Is it apparent to them that
Eddie is still standing in the shadows of a nearby building on the edge of the river, still talking on the phone, and he looks up as they approach and watches them with his gaze, but they don't even seem to notice that he's there. They just keep walking past him as if they can't see him, talking amongst themselves, and you hear snippets of their conversation. Yeah, might have to get the tactical team on standby. Suspect armed and dangerous. Look, we'll just have a quick look, see what's up, then we'll put the call through. Yes, yeah, right. On site now. No, do not let Agent McAllister know for the time being. This shouldn't concern the AFP unless we find something inside that, you know. The police approach and they see you standing there. They look at each other confused. They're not expecting anyone to be here. And then one of the police, a flabby blob of a man who would have failed the physical if he'd signed up to join a force in recent years and has obviously been in this job for a long time, steps forwards. He says, "Oh, sorry, weren't expecting anyone here. You the proprietor or something, mate?"
Evening, officers. How many of them are there?
4.
Okay. No, I'm not, but I did know them. Or rather, I do know them. Can I help you at all?
One of the other officers screws up his face and he says, "Survivor, maybe?" Was a female voice who made the call, but the fat man holds out a hand and he says, "Sergeant Tame." And he says, "Oh, well, we received a call from this location. It was a female on the other end, very distressed, and we were told that there's some sort of disturbance or fight or something going on there and people have been badly hurt. So we're quite worried. We thought we'd come and do a wellness check. We've got people that can come if it's dangerous in there. We've got people who can come and sort that out." He then takes a look. He sees your immaculately tailored suit and he says, "You look like you haven't had too much trouble in there, mate."
Gentlemen, this is a case of miscommunication. I think someone might have been, they might have had a bit too much, might have made a small situation into a big thing. This is normal club business. We're cleared out for tonight, but this is nothing. You don't need to worry yourselves.
Please make a manipulation subterfuge check.
Sure. That's 4.
Big handful of dice.
That's 9, yeah.
9.
Come on. 9. 7 and a critical. Yeah,
7 and a critical. Nice.
Oh, my beautiful liar.
The officer nods and he says, "Oh yeah, places like this, look, we get calls out all the time, and it's usually just 2 blokes having a spat, but one of the other officers raises a hand and says, woman on the phone said blood everywhere, everyone's dying. It sounded like there was some sort of carnage going on in the background." He frowns and he says, I'm sorry, sir, but we're going to have to take a look with how urgent the call sounded. We really have to make sure that everyone inside is okay."
Probably is the time where I should invoke mesmerize. I would
It's up
say.
to you. If you want to take the direct route, or you can like try to find some other explanation.
I mean, okay, well, we can go conversational for now. Really, gentlemen, I can't be responsible for the substances that people take in our bar that we do not serve. But I think there might be a case of twisted perception going on here. Is all.
Ooh, okay. Make a manipulation subterfuge check.
Yeah, sure. 4 successes.
4 successes. The officer raises his eyebrow and says, right, under the influence, I see. He turns to Sergeant. He turns to the flabby guy who takes this chance to hold out a hand and say, I'm Sergeant Tame, Victoria Police, by the way. Who did you say you were again?
Derek Brent. Pleasure to meet you.
Derek Brent. Please make a manipulation subterfuge check again.
Critical. 7
Critical.
You'd love to see it.
Derek Brent, says Sergeant Tame as he shakes your hand. Well, nice to meet you, Mr. Brent. He turns to the officer next to him and he says, you call back, let the tactical team know it looks like a false alarm. Lady was on some sort of substance, hallucinating. No violence or any need for a tactical response here, but he then turns back to you and he says, Mr. Brent, you work here, do you?
I'm close to the proprietor and I work the occasional shift, but I'm not here every night, no.
Close, right. He says, well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask to speak to the proprietor, just to check in, make sure everything's okay, let him know that if he does need assistance, we're only a phone call away, and make sure the poor lady inside is getting some help. Now, we understand that you don't have control over these sorts of things happening in your club, but we just need to have a look around, make sure that, none of this stuff is happening out in the open where the club could reasonably put a stop to it, and, it's just procedure. You're not in trouble or anything.
Okay.
Behind him, one of the other officers says, yes, sir, I'm just going to call back to the station, letting him know tactical team on standby, and also that AFP bloke. Yeah, Agent McAllister. Yeah, tell him nothing for him here. Looks like just regular disturbance at a club. I'll finish up here and I'll join the rest of yous in the car, okay? The other officers nod. They turn around and begin walking back down the road the way they came, leaving you alone with Sergeant Tame. He takes a step forwards, trying to get past you towards the door, and he says, now, the proprietor, what is his name, might I ask?
His name is Vincent Merriweather.
Vincent Merriweather. Okay, I'd like you to please make, just go ahead and make a finance check, just finance on its own.
Oh gosh, okay.
This is just to see if he recognises your name.
1 success.
One success. Speak your name, he doesn't seem to register. And he says, well, I'll just be heading inside. Let Mr. Merriweather know if he does require assistance. We're only a call away. And then he notices that you're still standing in front of him and that you won't move.
Honestly, officer, I appreciate your concern, but without the proprietor's permission, I'm not sure I'll be able to let you into the club. It's just not my property to have that say on. I can give you Vincent's number if you would like, but I don't know if he'll be available right now. He's off on business.
Go ahead and make one last manipulation subterfuge check.
Sure. That's 3 successes.
So he got 6 successes on his insight.
Ooh.
He raises an eyebrow and he frowns and he says, I understand that, mate. You got to make sure that everyone heading inside is above board, but I insist. I've got to speak to the proprietor, and it's just procedure. No one's in trouble or anything. Just let me through, and I'll be out of your hair before you know it. And with that, he moves forwards as if he's going to push past you.
Okay, so I am going to let him into the quickly let him open the door so that his officers can see him entering the building.
Yep.
At which point I'm going to enact mesmerize.
Yep.
And convince him that everything here is fine, and he's going to go back to his car, report that everything's okay, and go home. These are not the droids you're looking for.
So you step aside, and he steps past you. He pulls open the door and steps into the den of the club, and one of the officers who's walking down the road ahead takes this moment to just briefly look over his shoulder, catch the glimpse of the sergeant entering the club, and then you see the 3 of them disappear into the shadows as they round the corner around a nearby building. And you notice that Eddie watches all of this, but he doesn't move. He just looks in your direction and nods as if giving you permission. You step into the club, pull the door shut, and then just as the sergeant sees the scene in front of him and says, "What in the blazes is this?" you grab him by the shoulders, force his head around, and look into his eyes. Please go ahead and make a rouse check.
That's just 1 die, right?
Yep, just 1 die.
Might want to throw forget in there too.
Yeah, I may want to do that, yeah. Success.
Success. How many? Oh, yeah, just 1. Yep, so you don't get hungrier. So please, you won't need a roll because he's not expecting to dominate. So you look into his eyes as he opens his mouth, ready to ask what you're doing, and what do you direct him to do?
You have seen nothing out of the ordinary here. You're going to go back to your patrol car and report this to your men. You are going to make a report saying that nothing was out of the ordinary here and that this was just a regular bar fight, nothing to be concerned about, and there was nothing particularly abnormal in the bar.
He nods, and then his eyes glaze over, and in a monotone voice he says, woman under the influence, scared by an ordinary bar fight, yes. And then he shakes his head, seemingly realising where he is, and he looks at you and he says, well, that'll be all for tonight then, Brent.
Thank you. I've forgotten the officer's name.
Sergeant Tame, but yeah, Vincent probably wouldn't remember.
Sure, yeah.
Sergeant,
that'll be all.
Sergeant Tame shakes your hand once again. He says, well, remember, if you need assistance, we're just a phone call away, and yes, please, we'll look the other way this time, but any more substance abuse issues, and unfortunately, we will have to make a note of it in the report. Please let Mr. Merriweather know.
And then I understand completely.
He nods, turns around as if he can't even see the carnage in front of him, the aftermath of the massacre, and steps outside.
Alright.
Adi, you catch a glimpse of Adi. He just looks over at you and nods once again, perhaps in approval.
I return the nod and enter and walk back inside the club.
So, Hope, there was something I believe you wanted to do.
On the way back out to the others, I was going to look for the bodies that she dropped blood into.
That's right, you were. So, that may as well get to this then. And before I move on, Ash, were you adding your presence dots to those subterfuge checks?
No, I was not.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because it's only charisma, but yeah. I was just making sure, because Awe only adds to charisma.
Yeah.
So, Hope, so you step out of the office and make your way back into the club proper, you look around trying to spot the bodies that had blood dropped into them. And as you sight the first one, a woman in a torn purple dress sprawled on the floor, her arm jutting out in an unnatural angle as if it was violently yanked from its socket. You see something that you perhaps were dreading. I'd like all of you to please make wits awareness checks.
2 successes.
Total failure.
Total failure.
1 success.
0.
1 success.
I also got a total failure.
Oh no.
Yeah.
This is gonna get ugly.
So Sylvia and Vincent, over the pounding music, you hear the sound of someone taking a breath.
Oh god, okay.
Yeah.
So swivel to look at that person.
It swivel in that direction, just in time to see 2 of the bodies sit bolt upright in the middle of the dance floor and look around, their eyes wide, their pupils dilated with hunger frenzy.
Holy shit.
Hey guys.
Yep. And as you see them climb to their feet, another 2 bodies also begin to pull themselves off the floor.
What?
Around and take in the sight of the blood around you. And then, in unison, the 4 of them fix their eyes upon you, the only quote-unquote living entities in the area.
Shit.
They open their mouths and let out a bestial gasp as they spring to life and begin running full tilt across the dance floor towards you. And Derek and Hope, seeing these bodies pull themselves off the floor and start barreling towards you, catches you completely by surprise. So,
now, here's a question.
Yep.
Here's a question. I have sensed the beast.
Yes.
Would I get a passive roll on that to detect what was going on, especially with so many frenzying?
Yes. So, yes. Do you have it active right now?
No, but it has a passive use.
It does have a passive use. So,
Kind of a spidey sense for hostile feeling.
you see an aura. You see an aura of blood red flare around 4 of the bodies.
But I got 0 successes, so never mind.
You see an aura of red flare around some of the bodies, and instantly the room is doused in this overwhelming sense of terror and hunger. But it overwhelms you so much that you don't register what it means until you see these newly born vampires running towards you.
Oh, fuck.
So, Sylvia, what would you like to do?
Oh Jesus. I guess I'll summon the arms of Ahriman for now. They'll take a turn to do, right?
They will take a turn to do, but you still have to make a rouse check.
Yes, I'll do that. That's a failure. Lovely.
That's a failure, so that is a stain.
Not a 1 or a 10, just a regular.
Yeah, just a regular. So no stain,
Right.
but you do get hungrier. And you wrap your arms around yourself, willing the darkness to life, seeing it coalesce around you, slowly forming those shadowy appendages, but not in time to strike out at your would-be assailant. Vincent, what would you like to do?
Run.
Turn and run?
Yeah, Vincent's running straight for the door.
Yeah, he sure can. Okay. So, Vincent, I'd like you to make a dexterity athletics check.
2 successes.
2 successes. So as soon as you see the woman in the purple dress sprinting towards you, you just turn around and start running towards the door. Okay. Sylvia, as you summon the darkness around you, one of these baby teeth. A man with a mohawk wearing a shirt for a heavy metal band bares his teeth and leaps towards you. And as he does, I'd like you to make a wits awareness check, but there will be 1 penalty die because you are, in combat and he's leaping towards you.
Only 1 success.
Only 1 success, yes. You don't notice anything other than that this newly born vampire who is desperately hungry for blood is leaping towards you. And he's going to attempt to cling to you and bite you. I would like you, if you'd like to dodge, to make a dex athletics check, or if you'd like to try to strike him back, to make a dex melee check.
Sorry, what was the... Oh, they're the same. I'll try and strike him back. Yep.
Alright, yep, just going to punch him, because you're still waiting for your arms of Ahriman to form.
0 successes.
0 successes. Okay. So he leaps towards you, his fists clenched into makeshift claws, his teeth bared, and he sinks his teeth into you, and that's going to be a melee brawl check, but he's going to get a penalty dice, and I'll explain why once someone notices. So what are we working with here? We are working with a dice pool of 4 down to 3, with hunger at 4. So he rolls a messy critical. You see his face contort in rage as his beast takes over, and he sinks his teeth into your flesh, and it hurts. Normally when a kindred bites someone, their fangs carefully part the flesh, but this guy begins mauling you like a rabid animal. He's not even drinking blood, he just bites into your arm and tears your skin and deals 2 points of aggravated damage.
Okay.
Oh, holy crap.
Hey guys, can we get Sadiq in here or something?
Yeah. Meanwhile, Vincent, you're turning and running from the woman in purple, and she sees you running, and she screws up her face, bares her teeth, and to your utter shock, she turns into a blur as she speeds towards you with superhuman speed. And just like what happened to Sylvia, she's going to attempt to throw herself on you just as you reach the door and reach out for the handle. As she does so, I'd like you to make a wits awareness check, please.
Yeah. 3 successes.
3 successes. As she bares her teeth, you notice that she does not appear to have fangs. Her teeth appear to be unchanged from when she was a human, and yet they still snarl at you with obvious hunger.
But they still do aggravated damage.
Yeah. She leaps at you, flying headfirst in your direction like a blur. If you'd like to dodge, make a dex athletics. If you'd like to strike back, make a dex melee, and you may add a bonus dice as you've got distance. You had a chance to get some distance.
I will... It's the same regardless, but I'll dodge. 1 success.
1 success. Okay, so she gets a penalty dice because she doesn't have fangs. She leaps at you. 2 successes. She wraps her arms around your midriff, pushes you against the door with a loud clang, and then sinks her teeth into your neck, tearing and ripping at your flesh like a dog. You take 1 point of aggravated damage.
Okay.
Derek and Hope, The two remaining baby teeth turn, fix their gazes on you, and then roaring, they start running in your direction. If you'd like to dodge, Dex Athletics. If you want to strike back, Dex Melee.
So...
Ooh, that is unfortunate.
I am going to rouse to boost dexterity.
Yep.
Get hungrier, but that's alright. And I will try to run like a mother.
Yep, very well.
I'm also going to rouse and
run.
Rouse it. Try and what's that? Oh, success. So I don't get hungry.
After this is done, I've got something I'd like to try to do. So.
Yep. So successes for both of you.
3 successes.
So it's Dex Athletics to run. Dodge,
to run. Yep.
Cool. So it's
3 successes. Knock on wood.
3 plus the rouse. That's 3 successes for me as well.
The music pounds, the lights flicker as these baby teeth run towards you, intent on feeding on you. One gets a bestial failure and the other gets 1 success. So the one that runs towards Hope, a man in his early 20s wearing jeans and a leather jacket, snarls as he leaps into the air. Hope ducks and he flies over Hope and smashes his head into the side of the bar, dealing 1 point of superficial damage to him. Hope turns and sprints back towards the office entrance. Meanwhile, the one that comes towards Derek, a long-haired man of about 30 wearing a long trench coat and silver chains, leaps towards you, flailing his arms in front of him like an animal. You step to the side and he sails through the air, landing in a crumpled heap at your feet. You take a few steps back and then raise your hands, ready to defend yourself as he springs up to his feet, once again eyes you and bares his teeth. And you notice at this point that he has no fangs, and I will ask you to make an intelligence occult check.
Yeah, no, I was waiting for time to ask, like, do I have any idea what these things are?
Yeah, it'll allow you to do it now.
Depending on what they are, might change my song. 3 successes.
3 successes as he bares his teeth, his fangless maw. You notice something. His skin, illuminated by the flickering lights, does not share the same pale pallor as yours. If you didn't know better, you would say he's still alive, but you know he can't be. And then you realize what he is, what these things are. Just like Vincent, you know that vampires track their generation, their distance from the original vampire. Among the Chantry and among your studies, you've seen this original vampire referred to as Cain. You are 13th generation, or so the rest of the occult researchers in the Chantry have told you. But beyond the 13th generation, the blood dilutes to such a point where some aspects of vampirism fail to manifest, creating something caught between life and death, known as a thin blood. These vampires are they. You know that they are vampires, but they are more living than you are. They still feel the insatiable hunger. They still have the powers and some of the benefits that vampirism provides. But they're also more human than undead. And they can be killed by things that would kill a human. They don't have the hardy resilience of proper undead, such as yourself. So, Derek and Hope, what would you like to do?
So, what I'd like to do is try to get the attention of the two loose ones, get them to follow me, run across the bar, kicking over bottles of alcohol, and dropping a lighter into the puddle of high-proof stuff as I go.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna try to flashbang them with a fear frenzy.
Yep.
How's that gonna affect us?
Well,
It might.
they'll be right after me, chasing me. You
Yeah.
guys will. Yeah.
But it might still prompt a fire
The close
frenzy.
check might be a bit difficult, yeah.
But
So,
honestly, running is not a bad thing right now.
to get their attention, please make a charisma performance check.
All right. Hey, Lost Boys.
Yeah.
4 successes.
Or successes. You call out to the
Jesus.
two that attack, the ones that accosted you and Derek, the man in the trench coat and jeans and t-shirt, as they climb to their feet ready for another round. They turn their attention towards you, exchange glances with each other, and then start running, speeding up into a blur as they learn how to rouse
That's
their blood
fine.
for the first time.
That's fine. That's fine. And I will try to set the fire behind the bar so when they're back there so that my friends don't see it as much.
Go ahead, make a dexterity or stamina plus athletics check to
And
lure
so
them to the
round
bar and hope they don't catch you.
4 successes. I really don't want 2 of them to catch me, so I'm going to spend another willpower. Reroll 2 dice. 2 more successes, 6 successes.
2 more successes,
Nice.
6 successes. Okay, I'm going to roll for them.
Then does this cover the drop as well?
Yes, 3 successes
Okay,
and
cool.
1 success. They rush towards you, but you're faster. You dive over the bar, sweep your arm across the shelf, scattering 10, 15 whiskey bottles. They smash over the floor, and then just as you see the 2 thin bloods vaulting over the counter, reach into your pocket, pull out your lighter, light it, and drop, hurling yourself
The action line here!
hurling yourself back across the counter and burying your face in your hands as you hit the dirt. As this happens, Derek, what would you like to do?
So the one that was on me is now chasing Hope.
Now chasing Hope, so you
Yes,
can do
but
something
then-
with the other 2 who are with Sylvia and Vincent, if you like.
Yeah,
My friends getting chewed on might need help.
yeah. I
Would
just
be
sort of,
appreciated.
realizing what they are. I just sort of take a moment, they're thin bloods. They die like humans.
Yep, just going to call out that they die like humans.
Yeah,
Yep,
and it's so did both of you get bitten, or did only one of you?
yeah,
get
they've
bitten?
both been
I've
bitten.
been bitten.
Okay.
I don't know if we sussed this out, Dale, but I was planning on having a gun on Vincent.
Yes, you do have a gun, so you could,
Yeah.
I mean, you could have chosen to
Upon hearing this.
fire, yeah. So you want to try shoot the one in front of you?
Yeah, I mean, upon hearing this, I
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
realized
You
that it
reach
might
in,
actually
pull out
be
your
worth
gun,
it.
and get ready to fire. Okay, go ahead, make a dexterity firearms check.
Sure, that's 4. Come on. 3 successes.
3 successes. So you hear Derek shout out, "They die like humans!" You fumble into your coat, feel the familiar barrel of the gun, pull it out, and as the woman in the purple dress screams, "Ah!" and runs towards you, you fire, bang, 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 and she's going to attempt to dodge, and she counts as being in full cover as she has rapid reflexes active.
Mhm.
So that...
Ooh, she's speedy.
Yeah, she's very speedy. So that's going to be 3 plus... Yeah, so just going to be 3. Dice pool of 5 she gets. So let's see how she goes. And it's 1 success
Hey,
to your 3 successes. So bang, bang, bang! The bullets slam into her chest. She takes 4 points of aggravated damage and falls to the ground, gasping as her skin turns grey, ashy, and she enters torpor.
Oh, okay.
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 Sylvia,
okay.
your arms of Ahriman have formed.
Oh, can I?
Oh, yeah, Derek, would you like to do something
skipped
else?
over me, yeah.
Yeah, sorry
Yep,
about that.
Derek,
I
go
realized
ahead.
That was going to go straight.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was gonna. Oh, yeah. I was gonna. Yeah, I would like to say, seeing that I go for the one attacking Sylvia, but I was always going to go for the one going for Sylvia. So.
Yep.
Hey.
Yeah.
So how are you going to attack
Fair
it?
enough.
Yeah.
Hey, the new guy's expendable. It's all good.
No, I'm just
I'll
gonna.
remember that, though.
Yeah, I'm just gonna spin around knowing that, and I'm just gonna try and basically, I'm just gonna extinguish Vitae, the one attacking Sylvia.
Ah, nice.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so
Crazy
yeah,
Dorper.
this
Nice.
worked well last time. So let's see how it goes. So go ahead, make your rouse check, please.
Rounds. What number is that? Oh, it's a failure. So I get
Oh
hungrier.
yeah, you get hungrier, but you can still extinguish Vitae. Please make an intelligence plus blood sorcery roll. Be versing her stamina plus composure.
No. Let's raise it.
It'll be a dice pool of 5.
Yeah, 5. Three. Yeah, it's 3 successes for me.
3 successes to her 2 successes. Her hunger goes up to 5, and
Oh, she wasn't at 5.
it was at 4, unfortunately. So her hunger goes up. Yeah, well, not her. The man attacking Sylvia. You see his hunger. You see his flush face drain of color as he gets obviously hungrier, and this is enough for him to lose control of his faculties, and he lets go of Sylvia and drops away. And Sylvia, just as he does this, you feel solidity come to the shadows, and your arms of Ahriman have formed.
I'ma just whack him.
You're gonna whack him, go ahead. So that's going to be a Wits Oblivion check. And he's going to get a penalty die because he's now hungrier thanks to momentarily losing control of his faculties.
5 successes, but it's yet another messy critical.
Ooh, nice.
Ooh.
5 successes. So he sees this huge shadowy tentacle speeding from your body towards him, like Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man, with the tentacles reaching out of your back towards him. And even in the midst of his hunger frenzy, he feels fear. His eyes go wide, and he prepares to run. He's going to rouse the blood.
Ooh, risky.
He gets 0 successes. His hunger increases and he starts to fall into torpor just as your tentacles reach him and strike him, dealing... How many successes did you get, Sylvia?
5, but it was a messy critical.
Yeah.
I don't know if that does anything.
5 points. 5 points of superficial damage. You don't notice his skin starting to turn ash pale, and you just see your tentacle lash out, wrap itself around him, and begin to squeeze his neck, and then with a sickening crack, you detach his head from his shoulders. It drops to the ground, its mouth frozen in a terrified O. Instantly, his body falls limp. A thump reverberates around the big room, and you see his skin begin to bubble and collapse as his body melts away into nothing more than bone. I'd like you to add a stain, please, Sylvia.
Okay, yep.
Because you accidentally killed him with your critical success.
Yep.
That's okay though, your arms of Ahriman are ready, in case the other 2 don't get killed by this. At this point, Hope shouts, "Fire in the hole!" and drops the lighter. You have just enough time to see the flame reach the puddle of alcohol, and you immediately think, has Hope gone crazy? Before whoosh, flames overtake the bar and buffet you all with the intense heat. I would like everybody who is present to please roll for Fire Frenzy. So that will be composure plus your humanity halved, rounded down.
Okay.
Is it halved or a third?
Isn't the resolve in there too?
Oh yeah, resolve, yeah.
3.
So resolve plus composure plus humanity, a third of humanity.
Yep.
So 7 humanity would go to 2, wouldn't it?
Yep.
2 successes.
2, 4. Yeah, then.
It's 5 on another messy critical.
5 on another messy critical.
Yep.
2, 4,
Yeah.
7.
Hope and Vincent.
I got 3 successes.
I got 2.
2. Yep. So I'm going to roll for the 2 thin bloods to dodge.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, what is it? 1, 2. So just 5 successes, but 2 of them were 10s. So that's
a critical.
Success.
So that's 7 successes. And how'd Vincent go?
3.
3. Okay. So Hope, despite being the one who did this, as soon as you feel the flames, your beast roars, screaming in terror. You pull yourself to your feet, see the flames engulfing the bar, and then turn and sprint towards the door, pushing roughly past Vincent as you go. The thin blood in the trench coat is too slow to get out of the way. You have just enough time to hear him scream, "Ah!" as he's incinerated instantly in the flames. The other one leaps across the counter, and he's going to roll to avoid Fire Frenzy. Let me see. That's going to be 2, 2, and 2, so 6 dice pool. He rolls 3 successes. He leaps over the counter, and for a brief moment you see his eyes flicker in terror as he catches the flames, but then the bloodshot, crazed look of hunger returns. The hunger frenzy beats out the fire frenzy, and he begins to chase after Hope, shouting, "Arr! Arr!" Derek and Vincent, you raise your hands in front of your face to block out the heat and the fire, but other than that, you maintain control of your faculties, even as your beast inside you screams, growls, and urges you to turn and run. And Sylvia, as you see the flames, your beast roars a different thing. Your beast just roars, "Kill! Kill! Burn! Cleanse!" And you may act rather than simply raising your hands to block out the heat. You have full control of your body, and you may choose what you'd like to do.
Okay.
You see the thin blood, the last remaining one, in the jeans and t-shirt, sprinting after Hope as she scrambles for the entrance.
Right, I'll go for that one.
Yep. You're going to hit him with your arms of Ahriman.
Yes.
Alright, go ahead. Roll Wits and Oblivion.
2 successes.
2 successes. He gets a bestial failure as he runs past As he runs past you towards Hope, he bares his teeth, and then you hear a shattering of glass as one of the flames licks out, grabs hold of the glass of whiskey and blood and shatters it. This catches the Thin Blood's attention. He whirls around just in time to see the flame spreading across the counter. He opens his mouth and screams in terror, hesitating for just a moment, and you strike him with your shadow appendages, dealing... super fitting half of... what is your potence rating?
It's 2, so just add 1.
2, yeah. So you deal 3 points of superficial damage, and are you going to attempt to grapple him or just smack him?
I'll just smack him.
Yep, you smack him, knocking him off his feet onto the ground. Vincent, you lower your hands and see the Thin Blood lying on the ground in front of you, screaming, trying to scramble away from the fire, but also dodging Sylvia's shadowy arms as they try to batter him, smashing into the ground beside him. What do you do?
I just raise my gun and fire again.
Yep, please make a Dex firearms check. He's going to attempt to dodge, but he's got a disadvantage because he's dealing with Sylvia's arms of Ahriman.
3 successes.
3 successes to his 1 success. He rolls from left to right, and then Sylvia's appendage strikes down, wrapping itself around him, pinning him to the floor. You raise your gun, take this chance, and fire. Bang, bang, bang! Dealing 3 points of aggravated damage to him. His skin grows ashen grey as his eyes roll into the back of his head, and he lets out one last gasp before falling backwards into torpor. Beep, 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 beep. The fire alarm begins to beep, and then just as Hope reaches the door and begins grabbing, trying to force it open so she can escape into the cold night outside, the music stops, the lights stop blinking, and then a torrent of water spills from the sprinklers on the ceiling, extinguishing the flames. Within seconds, they are nothing more than cinders.
Is that likely to have made a call to any emergency services automatically?
You can make an intelligence technology roll.
Would anyone like
That
to roll
was
that?
exactly what I'm going to be thinking as I get out of frenzy.
Yeah, as you see the flames choked in the water,
Because
turning into
this
plumes of steam.
Part of my plan. 2 successes.
2 successes.
I guess.
Yeah. So first of all, Hope, you suspect, though you have no way of knowing for certain, that this may have signalled a call to the local fire department.
Okay. I'm going to run back to the office and go... If this is standard club procedure, they'll have like a list of emergency numbers.
Yep.
I'll find the one for fire and give them a call.
Yep. So you rush into the office as the last cinders of flame die and choke in the torrent of water before you, leaving the entire bar blackened with soot and scorch marks, collapsing under its own weight. And you burst into the office. Make a wits investigation check, please. Time is of the essence.
And I'll say what I'm doing. Yeah, we need to know the number. Hell, I'm going to rouse my wits. This is important. I get hungry. Of course I get hungry, but I'm smarter now. 2 successes.
2 successes. You scan the room quickly, hoping to find what you're looking for, and then, oh, thank God, there it is. Pinned to the wall beside the door you entered, almost obscured by a stack of cardboard boxes, a sheet of paper with emergency numbers for all of the local authorities, police, ambulance,
All right.
fire.
Cool. I'll get on the computer and I'll shut off the fire system and restart the music while I give them a call.
Yep.
Shouldn't be too hard.
Run over to the computer, move the mouse to bring it to life, and start tapping on the keyboard. There's an alert message on the screen. Fire, fire, fire. You click the button and enter the emergency override. Please make an intelligence technology roll. And you are still boosted.
Yeah, thank goodness. That 4, so... But I'm hungrier. Hopefully it won't matter. 2 successes. That good enough?
Yep. It won't let you cancel the alert unless you put in an admin override. You know there's a default password, and you're banking on the fact that the owners of the nightclub haven't changed it. And so you type it in, hit enter, and then you hear the fire alarm stop. The sprinklers outside let loose one last torrent of water, which slows to a drizzle. And then you hear the groaning electronical hum of the music system as it bursts back to life. The bass begins once again pounding throughout the nightclub. The lights flashing once more.
Hey, yeah, this is Club Violet. Some ignoramus tried to smoke under one of the sensors. False alarm, man, sorry.
The voice on the other end says, yeah, got it. We see the alert's been cancelled. Everyone's okay over there, right?
Yeah, dude just lit up where he shouldn't have.
Alright, got it. Thanks for the heads up. Have a safe night.
You too.
Cross-references that with the police.
Yeah. There's a click and the line goes dead. Breathing a sigh of relief, you step out of the office into the main area of the club, now drenched in water. The water mixing with the blood to create a murky brown goo that circles around each of your feet, nearly coming up to your ankle. Scorch marks on the walls and the counter, and a thick black mist hovering in the air.
I slap Vincent on the non-mauled shoulder. Yeah, welcome to the team.
Vincent is absolutely fuming at this point and sort of shrugs that off. Fire? Really?
It worked.
And
he looks down
to Sylvie and he's like, more confused this time. Tentacles?
I'm not thrilled about it either, okay? I mean, you're a pretty decent shot though, hey?
You turn to the 2 thin bloods lying torpid, face down in the brown muck, their skin ashen grey, their bodies stiff, unmoving. 2 out of 4 still alive. Just as you begin to think what to do with them, you hear loud voices outside and then the groan of the metal door being pushed open. In strolls Adiz. He looks around. His eyes go wide as he sees the smoke, the scorch marks, the torpid thin bloods. He just flashes you a smile and he says, was rushing to help, but you seem to have handled it just fine on your own. Just one problem, though. You see a shadowy silhouette of a thick-set man in the darkness behind him outside. The man takes a step forward, pushes Adiz to the side, and then as he steps into the club, the light illuminates his face. It's Larson.
Yeah.
He looks at you all, smiles a cruel smile, and he says, well, what do we have here? He regards the 2 thin bloods with a look of distinct pleasure in his eyes. And he says, I see you've left me some presents.
These poor bastards were a booby trap on the way out.
And that concludes this session. You each gain 3 experience points.
Damn, Larson.
And next session, you will be dealing with Larson, trying to find out what he plans to do with these Thin Bloods. Remember, he is the Scourge, and perhaps only Derek with his points in occult and Vincent with his knowledge of kindred politics know this. But the original purpose of the Scourge is to stamp out all Thin Bloods whenever and wherever they appear.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
So next session, you'll
That's
be
annoying.
dealing with Larson once again, perhaps trying to talk him down from ending these Thin Bloods. We'll wait and see what
That is an
happens.
option. We shall see.
And of course, chasing after whoever caused this horrible massacre, finding her, learning why she did what she did, and deciding how you plan to deal with her. That will be in Bloody, but Unbowed Part 2 in 2 weeks.
I should have brought the bigger gun.
That was Bloodied but Unbound, Episode 6 of Vampire War for the Second City, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition actual play podcast presented by DM Fiat. With me, Dale, as storyteller, Lost Demiurge as Hope, H. Quen as Sylvia, Paradox Mimic as Derek, and Ash as Vincent Merriweather. Music was created by Kevin MacLeod and is used with permission. Vampire the Masquerade and the World of Darkness are the registered trademarks and property of White Wolf Entertainment and Paradox Game Studios.